Chapter 128. When all the mana surged into his body, Ji Dong felt his entire body swell up. The yin-yang vortex in his body stagnated for a moment, but in the next moment, the yin-yang vortex violently contracted. The originally liquefied dual-colored ultimate flames underwent minute changes. Whether it was the Bingwu primordial yang sacred fire or the Dingxi nether spirit fire, there were specks of starlight. Each speck of starlight seemed to be the result of extremely condensed mana solidifying. These specks of mana starlight flowed within the yin-yang vortex's liquid mana. At that moment, the yin-yang vortex had abruptly shrunk to a third of its original size, making the wisp of chaotic flame at its core even more obvious. The chaotic flame seemed to have grown slightly larger, and the white flame had turned from a wisp to a wisp. Breaking through to the quadruple crown not only allowed Ji Dong to better communicate with the mana in the outside world, but at the same time, his yin-yang vortex had also become more condensed. After the yin-yang vortex shrank, the space saved would undoubtedly allow him to condense even more mana, laying a foundation for future improvements. At that moment, Ji Dong suddenly felt a powerful suction force coming from his right wrist. The newly formed yin-yang vortex in his body immediately split off a large amount of mana and surged towards his right wrist. Even the chaotic flame seemed to split off a tiny bit and fuse with the mana. With his own thoughts, Ji Dong could completely control the output of mana. However, when he felt the source of the suction force, not only did he not stop it, he even increased the output of his mana. This was because the source of the suction force was the Eclipse Phoenix that had not responded no matter how he called out to it, Little Flame. Ji Dong could vaguely sense what Little Flame was about to do. Accompanied by a resonant phoenix cry, an intense golden-red light shot out from Ji Dong's vermilion bird bracelet. Little Flame's small body rose into the air and spread its wings, floating above Ji Dong's head. At that moment, the Eclipse Phoenix's eyes were tightly shut. Its golden-red body flickered as it flickered with an extremely unstable magical power. Ji Dong had already raised his right hand, and a large amount of ultimate dual fire surged out and poured into Fire-Er's body. Fire's body slightly trembled, and the golden-red radiance on her body also began to change. From golden-red to a deep black, and from black back to golden-red, this process continued to repeat. Every time her body changed, she had to absorb a large amount of mana from the outside world. Even with Ji Dong's mana that had just risen to the fourth crown, he was starting to feel a little overwhelmed. The soaring serpent looked at the scene in front of it in astonishment and murmured, "This little fellow is about to advance. No wonder she didn't come out to help when Ji Dong was in danger. So it turns out that she can't even take care of herself. What a lucky little fellow. To have a companion like Ji Dong is her fortune. Despite being congenitally deficient, she can advance in such a short period of time. How enviable!" Ji Dong had broken through to the fourth crown, but before he could be excited, he encountered the problem of Little Flame also advancing. If Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong hadn't left, he could still use their respective ultimate flames to help Little Flame. But they had already left, and the only one who could help Little Flame was Ji Dong himself. Faced with Little Flame's increasingly intense absorption, Ji Dong's expression gradually became solemn. But the more it was in such a situation, the calmer his heart became. This was the temperament that the god of wine had cultivated in his previous life. Panic was often the prelude to destruction. Only by maintaining calm in any situation could one deal with any unforeseen circumstances. Ji Dong's eyes flashed and he raised his left hand. His left hand suddenly waved in the air, and a wave of mana forcefully cut off his assistance to Little Flame. In midair, Fire-Er's originally calm body immediately began to tremble violently. The constantly changing light on her body immediately became extremely unstable. Streaks of black and gold lightning flickered. Her head was also lifted up due to the intense pain. And at this moment, Ji Dong used this moment to draw a complete circle in the air with both hands. His eyes shone with divine light, and the mana of both elements simultaneously burst forth. In the sky, the elemental cloud reappeared. Under the summoning of his ultimate dual flames, the two major elements of the fourth and third fire began to rapidly condense again. Two great formations with the totem of the vermilion bird and the totem of the soaring serpent simultaneously appeared on both sides of Jidong's body. It was the yin-yang fire formation. With a lift of both hands, the two great formations rose into the air. Jidong once again poured out his ultimate dual flames without hesitation. The yin-yang vortex outside his body that had previously disappeared when he broke through to the realm of four crowns appeared once again under the effect of the two great formations. It revolved around his body once more. The elements of the third and fourth fire that Jidong had summoned in the air frantically surged into Jidong's body under the enormous suction of the yin-yang vortex. After passing through Jidong's body, they were filtered, condensed, and concentrated before being released into the air and poured into Little Flame's body. Little Flame's unstable mana gradually calmed down. With the help of the two great formations, Jidong had now become a transit point. He converted the fire elements he had absorbed through his own body into the ultimate dual flames before injecting them into Little Flame. Compared to the previous situation where he had to do nothing, he was much more relaxed. Even the soaring serpent, who was the divine beast of the fourth fire, could not help but exclaim in admiration. Jidong's adaptability could be said to be impeccable. When he was trying to break through to the realm of four crowns, Little Flame had not been able to help him. However, when Little Flame was breaking through, Jidong had become a powerful helper for her. Whether it was temperament or ability, the soaring serpent was very satisfied with Jidong. From a certain perspective, he was now Jidong's teacher. Seeing his own disciple so outstanding, how could he not be happy? As time passed, the yin-yang crown on top of Jidong's head grew brighter and brighter. After all, the output of mana was much faster than the absorption, and his mana had already begun to weaken. With a flick of his wrist, Jidong's two crystal cores fell into his palm. He had no choice but to begin borrowing the mana from the crystal cores to help Little Flame improve. Time did not even allow him to take the mana recovery pills that Yao Qianshu had given him. Vaguely, Jidong discovered that there was a mysterious spiritual connection between him and Little Flame. He could sense that Little Flame had already reached the most critical moment. A strange light flashed in the soaring serpent's eyes as he said, "So that's how it is." No wonder, Fury asked doubtfully. "Senior soaring serpent, what do you mean by so that's how it is? What is this bird whose body is constantly changing colors? Why is she together with Jidong? And what's going on here?" The soaring serpent said, "This little fellow is Jidong's magical beast companion. Her mother is the same as me, one of the heavenly stem divine beasts, the divine beast of fire, the vermilion bird. However, this little fellow cannot be considered a vermilion bird. As early as 3,000 years ago, when the vermilion bird gave birth to her, it just so happened that it encountered a solar eclipse. As a result, the solar eclipse fire launched a sneak attack and invaded the vermilion bird's egg, causing this little fellow to almost lose her life. It was the vermilion bird's own natal true fire that protected her, allowing her to persevere. But even after 3,000 years, the vermilion bird still has not hatched her. It was your brother, Jidong, who helped the vermilion bird hatch this little fellow, allowing her to be like Jidong, possessing the ultimate dual fire fiend. However, this little fellow's body was congenitally deficient due to the solar eclipse fire, and after being born, her fiend's strength was only at the 4th rank. Only by following Jidong could her body possibly recover. It was not only because of Jidong's ultimate dual fire fiend, but perhaps it also had something to do with the fire of chaos. The vermilion bird was very clever, not hesitating to forge an inner armor for Jidong. Fury suddenly understood, so that's how it is. No wonder Vermilion Bird was protecting Jidong back in the mountains. I've never heard Ji Dong mention it in detail. So what do you mean by, so that's how it is? The soaring serpent said, this little fellow has always been with Ji Dong. Ji Dong's origin of chaos has finally been ignited, transforming into the flames of chaos. In addition to learning the 5 elements array, some of her intrinsic strength has been awakened. In terms of ability level, she already has the strength to break through to the 5th order. However, her physique does not allow her to advance. Just now, after being affected by Ji Dong's breakthrough to the 4th crown, this little fellow's magical power has most likely become restless and has automatically initiated an attack on the 5th order. As a result, her body is inherently lacking, which is why she cannot rely on her own strength to complete her evolution. Now, with Ji Dong's help, there is a possibility for her to complete her evolution. That fellow vermilion bird may not be much, but her clan is most particular about the cycle of karma. As the soaring serpent spoke up to this point in midair, Hor-Er let out an extremely clear phoenix cry. Compared to before, this phoenix cry was much sharper, piercing straight into the blue dome of heaven. The magical power that Ji Dong had poured into her was blocked by a layer of elemental energy. At the same time, black and gold rays of light simultaneously appeared on Hor-Er's body. Strange magic patterns constantly appeared on her body, transforming into resplendent rays of light that flickered in the air. Hor-Er's body was originally only 1 meter long, but at this moment it began to change. Accompanied by the fluctuations of the magic patterns, 3 tail feathers popped out from her tail. The tail feathers slowly lengthened until they were 1.5 meters long, transforming into beautiful tail feathers. Her wings spread out, and as her body grew larger, a layer of solid feathers appeared on her wings. On top of her head, the phoenix coronet rose up, emitting a faint golden light. Compared to her original flamingo appearance, Hor-Er had clearly become more beautiful. With a flap of her wings, Hor-Er let out another phoenix cry. Her entire body first exploded with a ball of golden light, which was quickly followed by a ball of black light. Her wings spread out, and she excitedly soared above Ji Dong's head, constantly circling around Ji Dong's body. Ji Dong clearly heaved a sigh of relief. The crystal core in his hand had already turned to dust. Seeing Hor-Er's excited appearance, he could not help but reveal a smile on his face. That's right, the Eclipse Phoenix Hor-Er had advanced from the 4th rank to the 5th rank. There was a qualitative leap in every aspect, and the shortcomings of her body had also been made up for to a certain extent. With a flash of light, Hor-Er plunged into Ji Dong's embrace. She retracted her wings, and the golden phoenix coronet constantly rubbed against Ji Dong's neck, intimately letting out soft cries from time to time. Ji Dong could feel her gratitude and gently stroked Hor-Er's feathers, which had become much stiffer, and said, Hor-Er, your weight has increased by quite a bit. I can't carry you anymore. After her evolution, Hor-Er's body had grown to a length of 1.5 meters, and in addition to her 3 tail feathers that were 1.5 meters long, she was in Ji Dong's embrace, and her tail feathers were already resting on the ground. Hor-Er let out another 2 cries, and no matter what, she refused to leave Ji Dong's embrace. Hee hee. The soaring serpent's sinister laughter rang out, and only then did Hor-Er wake up. She vigilantly raised her head, and looked at the soaring serpent. With a flash, she had already flown behind Ji Dong, and her 2 phoenix claws grabbed onto Ji Dong's shoulders. She hid her body, and only revealed her phoenix head to look at the soaring serpent. The soaring serpent snorted and said, Little fellow, am I that scary? Little Dong Dong, you may have broken through to the 4th crown, but look, you've already burned down the house. Your Grandmaster and Grandmaster's wife have gone into seclusion. You'll have to think of a place to stay yourself. Fury and Zhu Yan looked at each other, and they could not help but smile. Earlier, they had clearly heard that Yin Zhaoyang had made the soaring serpent pay for the house. Ji Dong was a little embarrassed as he looked at the empty beach and said, I'll build the house. Grandmaster and Grandmaster's wife have gone into seclusion? In my opinion, you don't have to rush to build a house, take it slow. Your cultivation has just risen to 4 crowns, so what's more important is to consolidate it. These few days, you and I have been learning the power transformation technique, and you can be considered to have made some progress. Your future achievements will depend on your own hard work. You must remember, although the power transformation technique mainly relies on your body, mana is also indispensable, because every time your own mana increases, your body will also be transformed and evolve by the mana. How about this? Go stay with Zhu Yan and the others for a few days, let's limit it to 10 days, and consolidate your own mana. 10 days later, I will start teaching you skills. Hearing that the soaring serpent wanted Ji Dong to stay at his place, Zhu Yan immediately smiled. Good, good. Brother, come with me, Big Brother has plenty of delicious food. The soaring serpent coldly snorted. Little Zhu Yan, don't blame me for not warning you. If you delay your cultivation because of forging, I will drag you into the sea to have some fun. Zhu Yan hurriedly said, How could that be? Senior soaring serpent, although forging is very important to me, my brother is equally important. Just leave the matter of building the house to me. 10 days passed quickly. Zhu Yan's efficiency was indeed very high. When Ji Dong went into seclusion for 10 days, allowing his mana to become even more condensed, he walked out of his room. He saw that the original place, the wooden house, the small courtyard, had all been restored to its original state. It was actually exactly the same as before. After these 10 days of cultivation, Ji Dong discovered that after his mana reached 4 crowns, although his rate of improvement did not slow down, the amount of mana required to increase by 1 level had increased exponentially. Chapter 129. After one's mana reached 4 crowns, the greatest benefit was that one's will was no longer limited to fusing with one's own mana. The realm of 4 crowns was not only an increase in mana, it was more condensed, and the body and mana were further integrated. At the same time, one's mental strength had also made great progress. In addition to controlling one's own mana, there was already enough mental strength to be released from the body to control the elemental power that came from the outside world, combining it with one's own mana. In this way, for a magician, it was undoubtedly a qualitative leap in strength. This was especially true for Ji Dong. Although his mana was only at 4 crowns, his mental strength was many times stronger than the other 4 crowns magicians. Using his own mana to summon elemental clouds was a miracle that could only be achieved by a 7 crowns magician, and he had already achieved it at 4 crowns. Admittedly, it was because he had the innate advantage of having the ultimate dual flames, but it was also inseparable from his own strong will. Otherwise, even if he produced elemental clouds, he would not have been able to control them. When leaving the underground palace, Ji Dong and Yao Qianshu met Huang Liming and the others. At that time, Ji Dong relied on Little Flame and the 5 elements formation, as well as Yao Qianshu's amplification to use the Flame Monarch body. Now that his strength had broken through to 4 crowns, even without the help of Yao Qianshu's wood to fire, he could still use Little Flame and the 5 elements formation to release the Monarch body. Moreover, not only the Flame Monarch body, but also the Shadow Flame Devil King's possession. In other words, with his own strength, he might be able to fight against a 6 crowns magician. When Ji Dong finished his closed-door training, another person entered into closed-door training. That person was Fury. When Ji Dong first met him, Fury's cultivation had already reached level 69. At the age of 29, this level could be said to be unprecedented. After these days of hard work, he was finally about to reach level 70. Only when his mana reached level 70 would he have the possibility of reaching the 7 crowns. In the Yin-Yang school, Zhurong had said that starting from the 6 crowns, every increase in the Yin and Yang magician's crown was a huge bottleneck. Breaking through the 6 crowns was a dividing line, but the 7 crowns, the 8 crowns, and the 9 crowns were even more difficult to break through than the 6 crowns. This was also why there were so many yin and yang magicians, but so few of them were truly strong. Especially starting from the 6 crowns, there was a great deal of danger. If one was not careful, not only would all their previous efforts be wasted, it was very possible that they would go mad. Ji Dong slowly walked to the seaside. At this time, Zhu Yan was busy forging, Fury was in closed-door training, and the flying serpent was nowhere to be found. He was alone. The sea before him was calm, and the sky was covered in dark clouds. The sun could not be seen, and only the sound of the waves continuously flowed into his ears. Flaming bar, do you know? My strength has increased again. With the 4 crowns and flame of the 5th order, I am already able to face a 6-crown magician. But what level do I have to reach to have the power to protect you? 9 crowns? Ji Dong did not know, but he could see from the past that the flaming bar could make the 10th order ice dragon yield, and could make the fire divine beast vermilion bird fear. Her strength, perhaps even a 9-crown magician could not compare. But, with her powerful strength, why did she need protection in the human world, and could not use her own strength? Flaming bar, why won't you tell me? You've already been in closed-door training for a while, when will it end? Don't you know, I really miss you. Squatting down, Ji Dong used his finger to gently glide across the sand, repeatedly writing the 2 words flaming bar. Every time he wrote it, the longing in his heart seemed to increase. He suddenly realized, back in the Fire Academy, the days when he was able to mix drinks for the flaming bar every day were actually the happiest days for him. Although his strength was improving with each passing day, but not being able to see the flaming bar, his heart was always empty, and there was not the slightest bit of happiness to speak of. Right at this moment, suddenly Ji Dong's eyes narrowed. Almost without any hesitation, his entire body had already borrowed the strength of a palm strike to roll out horizontally on the beach. In midair, the intense ultimate dual fire exploded, the gold and black dual-colored flames ignited on his body. At the same time, the vermilion bird inner armor brazenly appeared, both wings flapping hard as his body rolled, once again changing direction, causing him to leap forward from the horizontal roll. In the blink of an eye, he was already more than 10 meters away. The soaring serpent's satisfied voice sounded out. Very good, to be able to react so quickly in a state of unease, not bad at all. Come down. At some unknown time, the soaring serpent had already appeared on the beach. Previously, Ji Dong's violent reaction was actually because a pebble had shot towards his body. From the looks of it, Ji Dong seemed to be a little oversensitive, but what if this was a sneak attack from an enemy? Retracting the vermilion bird wings, Ji Dong floated down to stand in front of the soaring serpent. Senior Soaring Serpent. The soaring serpent straightened the front half of its body, maintaining the same height as Ji Dong, and said, "Little Dong Dong, what are you thinking about? Your mind is not your own, this is not a good sign. Is it because you've been too lonely in your training?" Ji Dong shook his head and said, "It's nothing." The soaring serpent chuckled and said, "It looks like your devil energy has been consolidated. Since there's nothing else, I will start teaching you devil skills today, so that practicing devil skills will not be so boring and boring. Tell me, how do you differentiate devil skills?" Ji Dong said, "Devil skills are differentiated according to the 5 elements, yin and yang attributes, divided into 10 types. There are attack, defense, control, transformation, and so on." The soaring serpent shook its head and said, "No matter how it changes, it still remains the same. In my opinion, devil skills are divided into 2 types, one is close combat attacks, the other is control attacks, and defense is the same. In theory, close combat attacks are definitely more powerful than control attacks, but the difficulty lies in the fact that it needs to be close to the opponent, and the power of the attack is also limited by the range. Although the power of control attacks is weaker than close combat attacks, but it wins in the fact that it can change in a myriad of ways. More importantly, when carrying out control attacks, the Devil Master has sufficient time to observe the battlefield situation and make the most correct choice. Therefore, most outstanding Devil Masters mainly focus on control attacks, just like your Master's wife and your Master Ancestor. Ji Dong's heart stirred. According to the Soaring Serpent's words, the devil skills he had inherited from the two sovereigns should be classified as close combat devil skills. Even the Dark Moon Flame, which was a long-distance devil skill, did not seem to be a control attack. The Soaring Serpent said, "What I am going to teach you now is the control attack devil skill. When your Master Ancestor and the rest return, they will teach you the sea fire element. If you are able to combine these two elements together, you will definitely be able to bring out the advantage of having an ultimate dual fire. The D fire is the Yin fire, and since it is the Yin fire, it must be Yin, catching the opponent by surprise and catching them off guard. My control devil skill is released with the Soaring Serpent as the main body, using the Yin fire to condense into a Soaring Serpent form, and in harmony with the totem constellation, it can absorb the D-fire devilish energy in the air to the greatest extent. Therefore, the first step you must take is to transform the totem into your own." Transform the totem into my own? Ji Dong looked at the Soaring Serpent in puzzlement. The Soaring Serpent nodded its head and said, "To be more accurate, it is to transform your Yin fire into a Soaring Serpent. In the process of condensing your devilish energy into a totem, it is not only a practice for your control of devilish energy, but also a preparation for your devil skill attack. Watch carefully." As it spoke, a blue light flashed in the Soaring Serpent's eyes. Ji Dong could clearly feel the D-fire elemental energy in the air rapidly condensing, gradually taking shape in front of the Soaring Serpent. In the beginning, it was just an elemental energy that was hard to see with the naked eye, but as the devilish energy became more and more condensed, it gradually turned into specks of blue light, the light becoming more and more intense, gradually combining into a shape. With the Soaring Serpent's strength, if he wanted to complete the process of transformation, he could do it in an instant. At this time, he was purposely slowing down the process, so that Ji Dong could see it clearly, and also better understand the entire process. Gradually, the blue light gradually condensed into an illusory shadow, just like the totem that appeared on the back of a fourth Fire Demon Master when he used a powerful devil skill. However, the Soaring Serpent did not stop. More and more D-fire elemental energy was poured into it, causing the shadow of the Soaring Serpent in front of him to gradually become clearer and more condensed. In the end, it actually looked exactly like the Soaring Serpent itself, as if it had a real body, and even its eyes were filled with a lively charm. Seeing this strange scene in front of him, Ji Dong could not help but widen his eyes. The Soaring Serpent stopped pouring its devilish energy and said, "Little Dong Dong, do you know why, although we are all 10th level magical beasts, we Heavenly Stems divine beasts are stronger than ordinary 10th level magical beasts?" Ji Dong said, "Because you are Heavenly Stems divine beasts, you are able to better fuse with the devilish energy of your element and also better control it." The Soaring Serpent said, "That's right, as Heavenly Stems divine beasts, we are already in harmony with the will of the heavens. As a result, all the devil skills that the totem uses after transformation are the highest level of devil skills. At the highest level, we can even condense a pure energy Soaring Serpent with the exact same power as our original body, which is equivalent to creating another Soaring Serpent. Of course, at this point, no one has been able to do it, not even I can. But it is possible for you because you have the flame of chaos. Chaos is creation. Remember these words of mine. Chaos is creation." Ji Dong's mind stirred. Although he still did not fully understand, he still firmly remembered these words. The Soaring Serpent said, "Come, I will begin to teach you the devil skills of my Soaring Serpent lineage, from the basic skills to the ultimate skills. How much you can comprehend will depend on your own ability." A year later, at the coast of the East Sea, Ji Dong stood quietly on the beach, staring ahead. In a year's time, he had become a 16-year-old youth. At this time, Ji Dong had grown to about 1.8 meters tall, with a well-proportioned figure. His black hair was scattered over his shoulders, and his slightly dark bronze skin shone with a healthy luster. Under the illumination of the sun, a faint white halo could be seen vaguely under it. 30 meters away opposite him, Fury, the Thunder Emperor, was bare-chested, revealing his muscles that were 10 times harder than granite. His strong physique was like a Hercules descending to the mortal world. His short bluish-purple hair stood erect, filled with a threatening aura, and his eyes flashed with cold lightning, as if thunder could erupt at any time. Both of them were empty-handed. Fury did not use any magical weapon, and Ji Dong's twin radiance of sun and moon gloves were not in his hands. They stared at each other, their gazes unyielding. Not far away, Yin Zhaoyang, Yin Zhaorong, and Zhu Yan stood there, while the divine beast of fire, the soaring serpent, lay lazily on the beach, enjoying the warmth brought by the sun. Their gazes were fixed on the two brothers. "Little brother, I will not be lenient." Fury laughed loudly, and Hyoheim said. Ji Dong said in a deep voice, "Me too, please advise me, senior brother." Yes, this was the battle between the Thunder Emperor and Ji Dong. The day of the holy and demonic passage opening was getting closer and closer. Although Fury had already left the Yin-Yang Hall, he still decided to participate in this operation. The honor of the continent was more important than an individual. Even if he was dissatisfied with the Heavenly STEM Academy, he would not miss this important event that was held once every 5 years. Ji Dong clearly remembered what Yao Qianshu had said to him, saying that he would also participate in the battle of the holy and demonic passage. Whether to let him go or not became the focus of everyone's debate. The soaring serpent expressed its support, but Yin Zhaorong strongly opposed it. Originally, under such circumstances, it would be difficult for Ji Dong to be allowed to go, so the final decision fell into the hands of Yin Zhaoyang and Xingguang. Yin Zhaoyang did not explicitly agree or disagree. He said that if Ji Dong could defeat Fury in a fair battle, it would prove that he had the ability to protect himself, and he could participate in the battle of the Holy Evil Island. Otherwise, he would have to wait for another 5 years. Therefore, the current situation appeared. Ji Dong had lived here for more than a year. There was no doubt that in this year, his strength had undergone tremendous changes, and it was not the first time he had undergone a qualitative change. However, the opponent he was facing now was the former first seat of the Yin-Yang school, and also the strongest person in the history of the Yin-Yang school, the Thunder Emperor. Just 2 months ago, under the protection of Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong, Fury finally broke through the bottleneck of 7 crowns, and officially advanced from a Yang Thunder Heaven warrior to a Yang Thunder Heaven master. In terms of strength, with Fury and his Purple Thunder Sky Dragon, even the senior Third Fire Heaven Master Zhu Yan had to admit that he was no match for Fury. Moreover, Fury's magic was of the Yang Thunder attribute. The suppression of Ji Dong's ultimate dual fire was far less intense than that of the 5 elements. Although Ji Dong had made great progress in this year, his magic was only at level 47. When Yin Zhaoyang proposed this challenge, Ji Dong understood that his Grandmaster was indirectly rejecting his request. Level 47 was also 4 crowns. 4 crowns against 7 crowns, ultimate dual fire against Yang Thunder. He could not produce any elemental advantage at all. This battle could be said to be extremely unfair. Neither side could use any magic weapons or magical beasts to help, but even so, did he have a chance of winning? However, no matter what Ji Dong chose to try, he wanted to verify the results of his hard work in the past year. He wanted to see how big the gap between him and his senior brother was. There was no doubt that Fury and Ji Dong were both geniuses of their generation. Even Yin Zhaoyang could not judge how this battle would turn out. This was also a test for Ji Dong. Chapter 130. From the point of view of his heart, Fury hoped that this time Ji Dong could go to the holy capital battlefield with him. There was no doubt that Ji Dong, who killed Ji Feng in an instant a year ago, would be a powerful helper on the battlefield, but he also understood the position of Ji Dong in the hearts of the Master Ancestor and Master's wife. The holy evil battlefield was full of unpredictable dangers. Who could say what would happen? Therefore, when Flying Snake and Yin Zhaorong were arguing, Fury did not participate in the opinion. At this time, facing Ji Dong, he did not have the idea of going easy on him. What a joke, going easy on him in front of two strong masters. Wasn't that asking for trouble? Little junior brother, please. Fury yelled. His naked upper body was instantly covered in a layer of bluish-purple light. From time to time, crackling sounds of thunder and lightning could be heard. As the senior brother and their cultivation levels were so much lower than each other, of course he could not make the first move. He gave the opportunity to Ji Dong to make the first move. Ji Dong took a deep breath, and his whole body seemed to expand a bit with this breath. On the surface of his skin, the milky white light suddenly became stronger, and the phoenix feather-shaped vermilion bird inner armor quietly appeared, covering his whole body. At this time, he no longer needed to use the vermilion bird inner armor taught by the flaming bar to release it. He only needed to fuse his mind with the vermilion bird inner armor branded inside his skin, and he could release it in an instant. At the same time, his own magic and the vermilion bird inner armor completed the communication. Black and gold, 4 crowns, 3.5 stars, representing the 47th level of the 3rd Fire Grandmaster Yin Yang crown appeared above Ji Dong's head. The black and gold ultimate dual fire that rose was not like the previous ones, but circled around Ji Dong's body. This was a natural change after Ji Dong broke through the realm of 4 crowns. The ultimate dual fire appeared, and the magic elements in the sky suddenly became rich, and an invisible violent aura spread. Ji Dong's eyes turned from icy cold to blazing hot. His arrogance and the ruthlessness of the fire element seemed to have formed a perfect fusion in an instant. Although he was not as tall as Fury, at this moment, the aura he emitted was like that of a monarch descending. His aura was even more imposing. This was a ruthless monarch, a tyrant of a generation. Ji Dong's hands slowly raised along with the flames that circled around him. His extremely coordinated body suddenly shook, and in an instant, 2 rings of light, 1 gold and 1 black, appeared. The vermilion bird stared intently, and the flying serpent stared coldly. They actually released the Yin and Yang dual fire formation at this moment. When he released the vermilion bird inner armor and spread his wings, Ji Dong's aura had already risen to the level of a 5-crown demon master, and a 5-crown demon master with the ultimate dual fire. At this moment, when the dual fire formation appeared, his entire aura was immediately pushed to the peak. Thunder Emperor Fury's expression also became solemn at this moment. For more than a year, the two of them could be said to have cultivated separately. Although Fury knew that Ji Dong was constantly growing, he did not know to what extent his cultivation had improved. Only now, when he faced his little junior brother, did he understand that with the advantage of his own attributes and the help of the 5 elements formation, Ji Dong could already rely on his own strength to fight against a 6-crown heaven warrior without the help of the eroding fire phoenix. Fury could not help but say, "Little junior brother, your improvement is really shocking. Come, let me see your 5 elements formation." "Senior brother, be careful." With a shout, Ji Dong took a big step forward, and his entire body had already shot out as if he was gliding along the ground. The vermilion bird's wings spread open behind his back, and it looked as if the ultimate dual fire was flying close to the ground. With his arms stretched out by his sides, Ji Dong's eyes were already filled with a strong fighting spirit. Even if he was facing the Thunder Emperor Fury, he did not feel the slightest bit of fear. His hands swung out at the same time, gold and black. 2 flames shot out at the same time, leaving behind 2 dazzling trails of light on the ground, heading straight for Fury. It was the Flame Sovereign King's technique, Bright Sun Flame, and the Dark Flame Devil King's technique, Dark Moon Flame. The Bright Sun Flame and the Dark Moon Flame could be said to be a pair of skills that reinforced and countered each other. When they were used, they looked exactly the same, just that they represented different flames, but their power and effects were completely different. Seeing that Ji Dong was about to launch an attack, Fury raised his right hand and let out a roar. Then, as if he was just grabbing at the air, a ball of blue-purple lightning appeared in his palm. Amidst the blinding blue-purple light, the 7 Crowns Sun Crown appeared with the radiance of lightning. The ball of lightning shot out, ignoring the 2 ultimate flames that were flying close to the ground. Instead, it headed straight for Ji Dong. In the instant that the ball of lightning was released, the air in front of Ji Dong's eyes completely distorted. Even Fury's figure seemed to be distorted. The intent that had been firmly locked onto Fury's body was actually disrupted by the powerful power of lightning, and was instantly broken. The attacks of demonic skills required intent to be guided. How could a demonic skill that had lost its guidance hit its opponent? It was obvious that all of this was caused by the ball of lightning in Fury's hands. With just one attack, the Thunder Emperor had forcefully turned the situation around. Ji Dong's advantage of being the first to attack was completely gone, and the power of a 7 Crowns Heavenly Master was fully displayed. Faced with this situation, Ji Dong did not panic. His body did not stop at all, and he continued charging in his original direction. At the same time, he put his hands together, and the bright sun flames and dark moon flames that were flying close to the ground suddenly changed directions, charging towards each other at the same time. In the instant that the 2 ultimate flames of gold and black suddenly condensed, it was the instant that the ball of lightning flew above them. Boom! An extremely intense explosion sounded on the beach, and a huge pillar of fire soared into the sky, scattering in all directions in a radioactive manner. The ball of lightning that Fury had released had actually exploded in the middle of this huge pillar of fire. Another intense explosion seemed to have assisted it, causing the extreme flames to boil even more violently. The distortion in the air was completely obliterated by this powerful explosive force. Good! The Thunder Emperor Fury shouted, and his figure had already appeared. Ji Dong had used the combination skill that he had already released to forcefully destroy his heavenly lightning orb. His control of demonic skills and the activation of demonic power had already reached a rather high level. Everything seemed to have happened in an instant. Faced with the impact of the explosion, Ji Dong did not pause at all. Just as Fury shouted, he had already charged out of the flames and arrived in front of Fury. The spectators could clearly see that when Ji Dong faced the impact of the explosion, he had gently twisted his body and retracted the wings on his back. His entire body was like a nimble serpent as he darted forward, doing his best to reduce the impact of the impact on his body. His speed actually did not decrease at all. Soaring Serpent could not help but chuckle when he saw this. Without a doubt, what Ji Dong was using was the strength conversion technique that he had taught him. The situation of the battle had already undergone a subtle change. As Ji Dong was not affected by the impact in that direction, when he charged in front of Fury, Fury was still resisting the impact. In other words, Fury had to face both the impact of the explosion and Ji Dong's close-range attack at the same time. When Ji Dong darted out of the flames, Fury was shocked. However, he was still worthy of being the strongest head disciple in the history of the Yin-Yang Hall. His entire body shone with electric light, and his body shook violently like a divine dragon shaking off its armor. Countless powerful lightning bolts instantly exploded outwards. Ji Dong only saw his vision brighten, and the blinding light forced him to close his eyes. However, his left hand, which was covered in sticky black flames, had already reached out. Crackle, with a loud explosion, Fury seemed to have completely transformed into a bolt of lightning. His body shone with a dazzling radiance, and his entire being was like a penetrating bolt of lightning. Ji Dong's dark moon claw was forcefully repelled, and he only felt a numbness in his hand. Right after that, a huge force had already struck back at him like a landslide or tsunami. The lightning bolts that had instantly appeared on Fury's body seemed to be completely channeled into his body. This was Fury's ultimate offensive and defensive technique, dazzling lightning body. Not only had the shockwaves from the previous explosion been completely neutralized by his dazzling lightning body, Ji Dong's dark moon claw had also been repelled, and the lightning bolts on Fury's body had also crazily enveloped Hyoheim. Once the lightning bolts on the dazzling lightning body had completely invaded one's body, no matter how strong one's strength was, they would at least have to endure 3 seconds of numbness. For the Thunder Emperor, there were at least 100 ways to instantly kill his opponent within 3 seconds. With this dazzling lightning body, Fury had killed countless opponents. Even Yin Zhaorong had once praised it, saying that it was the strongest fatality skill below the sure-kill skill. Soaring Snake was already shaking his head, Yin Zhaorong was frowning, and Zhu Yan was even sighing. In their view, the gap in strength was still too great. Only Yin Zhaorong still had that indifferent and calm look on his face, as if he did not care about what was happening in front of him. Even Fury himself had already thought that the battle was over. 7 champions against 4 champions, in his view, such an outcome could not be more normal. It should be known that with his strength of 7 champions, even if he faced an opponent with 8 champions, he would still be able to put up a fight. No matter how much of a genius his little junior brother was, his cultivation was still too far behind. Was it really over? Ji Dong did not think so. In his view, the battle had only just begun. The strong light was blinding, and his left hand was shaken again. Huge lightning bolts attacked from all directions. Facing all of this, Ji Dong was not affected in the slightest, nor did he make any movements to defend himself. There was only one reaction he made, and that was to attack. His left hand was shaken, and his right hand, the scorching sun devour, which he was most familiar with, had already erupted with incomparably strong golden flames. At this moment, the yin-yang crown above Ji Dong's head had already turned into a golden sun crown, and all the fiery light on his body had disappeared in an instant, completely condensing on the point of his right fist. In the 2 spirit designs behind him, the sun fire condensed into a spirit design, and vaguely, there seemed to be the cry of a vermilion bird and phoenix. Fury was stunned for a moment. He did not think that there was any meaning in Ji Dong's actions. When the lightning entered his body, Ji Dong's body would definitely be numb, and this attack would still be able to exert its power. Ji Dong used reality to tell Fury that his thinking was completely wrong. A milky white luster flowed on the vermilion bird's inner armor, and every feather-like scale seemed to have come to life, moving slightly rhythmically. The lightning that enveloped Ji Dong came into contact with the vermilion bird's inner armor, but was actually reflected and scattered in all directions. Not a single strand of lightning was able to truly penetrate Ji Dong's body. The dazzling thunder body was indeed a powerful technique, and it could cause the opponent to temporarily lose their vision. It was an offensive and defensive technique, but it had a flaw. In an instant, Ji Dong discovered this flaw, and that was the scattered nature of the attack. Ji Dong had never thought that he needed to defend in battle, and only needed to attack. However, this did not mean that he would only attack blindly. After such a long period of cultivation, he had already mastered the vermilion bird transformation like it was his own arm, and he was very clear about the degree of defense that his body could withstand. Although the dazzling thunder body would give him an energy impact, the lightning attribute was not enough to break through the defense of the vermilion bird's inner armor. Fury naturally would not let Ji Dong's fist land on his body. His right hand crossed in front of his chest, and his palm collided with Ji Dong's fist. In an instant, Fury's right hand had completely turned a transparent bluish purple. It no longer looked like a palm, but more like a body of energy formed from the condensed lightning attribute. There was a loud explosion. Fury did not move an inch, but Ji Dong's body was sent flying. In the instant that he was sent flying, he swung his arm, and actually dissolved most of the momentum. At the same time, he used his upper body to lift up and kick towards Fury's chin. Fury still only used his right hand, and he slapped down, slapping Ji Dong's foot away. At the same time, he turned his wrist and clawed at Ji Dong. With a rumble of thunder, with Fury's body as the starting point, the air behind him had completely turned bluish-purple. On this beach, it was as if a thundercloud had descended. Along with this claw, 5 bolts of lightning resonated, and condensed into a giant lightning claw, directly grabbing at Hyoheim's moving body. Compared to the flaming claw that Huang Liming had displayed previously, Fury's attack was much, much stronger. The suction force of the lightning caused Ji Dong's body to become sluggish in midair. The speed of the lightning was far faster than the flames, and in almost a flash, the lightning claw had already reached Ji Dong. Zhu Yan swallowed a mouthful of saliva and murmured, "Fury, that kid, has actually become so strong. It seems that even if he doesn't ride on the purple lightning heavenly dragon, I might not be his match." Yin Zhaoyang glanced at him indifferently. "Is it very honorable?" Zhu Yan's expression froze, and he hurriedly turned his gaze to the battlefield, not daring to speak again. At this moment, the situation that Ji Dong was facing was even more difficult than before. As the lightning claw approached him, it was extremely difficult for him to dodge while he was in the air. However, don't forget that he still had a pair of wings that could relay his movements in the air. The vermilion bird's wings suddenly unfurled. Facing the lightning claw that was even larger than his body, Ji Dong's wings flapped downwards. The sun crown on his head burst out with a dazzling golden light, and he used the force of the wings to spin violently. Chapter 131. Intense golden flames were released as he spun rapidly, causing the huge lightning claw to be unable to close in. Meanwhile, Ji Dong, under the protection of the intense golden flames, soared into the sky and broke through the encirclement of lightning. This was the Flame Sovereign King's ultimate technique that combined both attack and defense, scorching sun spin. Fury laughed out loud and raised his right hand. The huge lightning claw immediately chased after Hyoheim. At the same time, the Thunder Monarch's eyes lit up. In midair, a bolt of lightning tore through the sky. Amidst the intense rumbling, it forcibly dispersed all the fire elements above Ji Dong's head. The numbness brought about by the lightning covered the sky and covered the earth. The lightning in the sky, together with the huge lightning claw from below, attacked from above and below, forcing Ji Dong into a desperate situation. However, at this moment, Ji Dong's eyes lit up. Intense golden flames were like viscous magma. The Yin fire formation behind him suddenly shrank, and the Yang fire formation instantly enlarged, expanding to a diameter of 3 meters. His eyes had completely turned into a dazzling golden color, and his entire body suddenly expanded. A terrifyingly proud aura instantly burst forth from his body, and his body also underwent changes at this moment. His entire body expanded with the wind, and the dazzling golden flames seemed to have become a part of his body, combining with the white sun crown on his head. In the blink of an eye, Ji Dong's body had already grown to a height of 3 meters. His body was the core, and his exterior was completely formed by the golden Bingwu primordial Yang sacred flames. The sun crown on his head had turned into a golden crown, and an incomparably proud and domineering aura, filled with an irresistible sovereign king's arrogance, was instantly released. Regardless of whether it was the lightning exploding in the sky or the huge lightning claw below, at this moment, they all seemed to be intimidated by the sovereign king's arrogance, and could no longer advance. The blazing heat and ruthlessness of the extreme Yang fire completely erupted at this moment. It was the sovereign king's descent, Flame Sovereign King physique. After a year of cultivation, Ji Dong was able to use this truly powerful profound meaning just by relying on the formation formed by the sun fire. The transformation that had once subdued two heavenly night-level powerhouses, if the vermilion bird transformation was said to be an increase in his own defense, then the sovereign king's descent was the sublimation of the two sovereign kings' wills and his own ultimate dual flames. Flame monarch! Soaring serpent cried out involuntarily. This time, even Yin Chaoyang's face revealed a look of surprise. He could clearly feel that under the effects of the body of the Inferno Monarch, Ji Dong's strength had once again taken a qualitative leap, even more so than when he used the vermilion bird transformation. What was even more powerful was that once the body of the Inferno Monarch was activated, Fury's yang lightning element, which was originally not suppressed by Ji Dong's extreme flames, immediately showed signs of being suppressed. The most obvious manifestation was the lightning claw in the air, where the lightning glow of the claw itself weakened by half in an instant. Yin Zhaorong asked doubtfully, "Lan, what flame monarch?" Soaring Serpent said solemnly, "I finally know where little Dong Dong's fortuitous encounter came from. What he possesses is actually the power and skills of the former ruler of the underground world, the Flame Monarch. No wonder, this is the monarch that controls all yang attribute flames." Yin Zhaorong and Yin Zhaorong did not know about the two monarchs, but how could Soaring Serpent, who had existed since ancient times, not know? Seeing Ji Dong release the body of the Inferno Monarch, that kind of pressure of a monarch descending upon the world, that kind of control over the yang fire of the world, finally revealed the veil that had been covering all his doubts. In midair, Ji Dong's right foot stomped downwards. With a loud bang, the lightning claw turned into lightning elements and scattered in all directions. The vermilion bird wings behind his back spread open, bringing with it the terrifying monarch-level extreme yang fire. The wingspan actually reached a terrifying 7 meters, and like a falling meteor, it smashed towards the Thunder Emperor Fury. The powerful pressure actually caused the previously condensed lightning elements behind Fury to show signs of dispersing. Attribute suppression had appeared. Fury's mutated Yang Thunder attribute had already been completely suppressed by the extreme Yang fire released by Ji Dong's body of the Inferno Monarch. Fury had never imagined that he would encounter such a situation. His strength was 3 times higher than Ji Dong's, and although the Yang Thunder attribute was not the extreme Yang attribute, it was already a powerful existence that surpassed the ordinary 5 elemental attribute. The power of lightning was the condensation of the righteous chi of heaven and earth, so how could it be suppressed so easily? However, the result that appeared before his eyes was that he was completely suppressed by Ji Dong's attribute. The reason why Ji Dong was able to defeat stronger opponents was because of the suppression of his attribute, causing his opponent to not even be able to unleash 70% of their full strength. This was the first time in Fury's life that he had encountered such a situation. His power of lightning seemed to no longer be able to produce explosive power, and the originally violent power of lightning actually showed signs of weakness. The Thunder Emperor was the Thunder Emperor after all. Even in the face of such a sudden change, Fury did not panic. Instead, he let out a maniacal laugh and faced the descending Ji Dong. His hands spread out by the sides of his body, and the lightning elements behind his back were instantly sucked out. Immediately after, his hands formed into claws, and his palms faced each other, making a stretching motion. An incomparably violent power of lightning appeared once again, and in that instant, it forcefully stopped the suppression of the lightning attribute. Intense lightning spread out from Fury's body, turning into a gigantic lightning orb with a diameter of 3 meters, enveloping his entire body within it. On the bluish-purple lightning orb, a fine electric net flickered with an almost incandescent glow. The Thunder Emperor's method of dealing with the suppression of his attribute was simple, direct, and even a little violent. It was to compress the element to the limit, compressing it to a terrifying degree, and forcefully dispersing the fear of the attribute. To dare to use such a method on the most explosive element of lightning, Fury's character was undoubtedly strong. The golden-red sovereign king of flames descended from the sky, against the Thunder Emperor who had the extreme yang lightning power on the ground. The two similarly huge energy orbs, golden-red and bluish-purple, collided with a loud bang. Boom! A ruthless aura filled the entire space, and the intense impact waves caused the tides in the distance to instantly roll back and evaporate. The two silhouettes separated abruptly in the midst of the collision. The bluish-purple lightning and the golden-red, extreme yang flames were extinguished at almost the same time. The light in the sky dimmed for a moment. This was a unique phenomenon of the elements in the air being destroyed. It was not a killing technique, but it was more powerful than a killing technique. The collision between Ji-dong and Fury, and the Tyrant and the Thunder Emperor, had actually produced a scene of the space being destroyed for a moment. Ji-dong's body was sent flying like a cannonball. Although Fury had not moved from his original spot, his legs had completely sunk into the sand from his knees down. The terrifying airwaves caused his strong muscles to temporarily cave in, and the piercing lightning was instantly restrained for a moment. Ji-dong was sent flying for 50 meters before landing on the beach. His entire body was sent flying for another 30 meters, plowing a deep ravine on the beach. Although there was no longer the light of the flames on his body, the clean sand particles still turned into gas and disappeared wherever he passed. Fury's face flushed red. He opened his mouth and breathed out, and a thick golden flame actually appeared in the air. Fury's expression only returned to normal after he breathed out the entire breath. He was secretly shocked. What a powerful extreme yang flames! In a situation where there was such a huge difference in magic power, he had almost been heavily injured. If not for the fact that his body was close to an elemental body after reaching the Seven Crowns realm, he would probably have been the one defeated by that attack. "Little junior brother, are you all right?" Fury shouted loudly. On the other side, Zhu Yan was about to run towards Ji-dong, but he was stopped by Yin Zhaoyang, who said, "It's not over yet." Yes, it was not over yet. 80 meters away from Fury, Ji-dong actually slowly crawled up from the ground. At that moment, his body was already scorched black. It was unknown whether it was because of the extreme yang flames or the bombardment of Fury's lightning. Only a dark blue luster could be seen in his eyes. With a forceful shake of his body, the scorched black color on his body disappeared. Fury was surprised to see that the vermilion bird armor on Ji-dong's body had turned from milky white to dark blue. The shape did not change, but the color had such a special change, which was clearly not caused by his attack. With a puff, Ji-dong spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood directly turned into a dark red flame in the air and spread out. With a slight twist of his body, the previously incomparably fiery tyrant seemed to have transformed into a cold demon king. There was not the slightest human emotion in Ji-dong's eyes, only extreme coldness and cruelty. Yin Zhaorong looked at the soaring serpent in shock. "Lon Lon, what's going on?" The soaring serpent chuckled and said, "The vermilion bird can give him the vermilion bird transformation, so why can't I give him the soaring serpent transformation? I'm not as stingy as the vermilion bird. Don't worry, even if Fury uses his full strength, he can only defeat him at most, but not kill him. With the vermilion bird transformation and the soaring serpent transformation, unless it's a monster at your level, it'll be hard for him to die even if he wants to. Furthermore, this little guy's body seems to have been soaked in dragon blood. In terms of body, I'm afraid that even you and Yin Zhaoyang might not be able to compare to him. Now you should understand why I supported little Dong Dong to participate in this great war of holy and demonic." Yes, this was the soaring serpent transformation. At the instant when the Flame Sovereign King and the Thunder Emperor collided, Ji-dong released the soaring serpent transformation. Compared to the vermilion bird transformation, which was completely external defense and form, the soaring serpent transformation was completely internal. The only change was the color of the vermilion bird's inner armor. Within his muscles and bones, the soaring serpent's demonic power was completely released, fusing with the external. At this moment, the strength of Ji Dong's body was completely comparable to that of a heavenly stem divine beast. The mouthful of blood that Ji Dong spat out was completely the residue of the demonic power that had accumulated in his body. Fury naturally did not know what had happened to Ji Dong's body. Seeing that he seemed to be completely fine, he could not help but be shocked. At this moment, Ji Dong let out a long howl towards the sky, and the yin-yang crown that had originally disappeared appeared once again. This time, it did not change into a pure attribute, but instead appeared in the form of a black and gold yin-yang crown. As he howled, the 4 crowns on Ji Dong's body lit up at the same time. He circled his hands on both sides of his body, and then put them together in front of him. The black and gold rings of light seemed to overlap. This time, it was not just 2 rings of light, but 1 ring after another extended inwards, all the way to the center of the 2 rings of light, where the vermilion bird and soaring serpent totems were, and appeared to shrink inwards. Ji Dong's howl became louder and louder, and the 2 great runes rose into the sky, floating behind his head. Compared to the condensed runes, the size of these 2 runes was much smaller, only about a foot in diameter. It was just enough to cover Ji Dong's head from the back. And at the same time, the 2 runes rose behind his head. For a moment, a loud dragon roar sounded, accompanied by a cold, hissing sound. 4 rays of golden light, 4 rays of black light, a total of 8 rays of light shot out from the 4 crowns on Ji Dong's yin-yang crown, and rose into the sky at the same time. In midair, they spread out, revealing themselves to be 4 fire dragons and 4 soaring serpents in the form of energy. Each fire dragon was 10 meters long, and the soaring serpents were more than 7 meters long. Ultimate Yang fire and ultimate Yin fire erupted in an instant, and pounced towards Fury at the same time. These 8 rays of demonic power, each of them had been condensed by Ji Dong for at least 3 days, and stored in the yin-yang crown, which was also the ultimate technique of the soaring serpent and yin-yang chaoyang. With Ji Dong's current demonic power, if he only used their demonic skills in battle, he could at most condense 1 dragon and 1 serpent. The reason why he could display the power of 4 dragons and 4 serpents was because of the runes behind his head. Among the 5 elements runes, this rune was called the Eternal Life rune, and it was also the 4th rune that Ji Dong had comprehended. Previously, it only took him slightly more than a month to comprehend the 3 runes of the Bing and Ding fire element. However, in the more than a year at the seaside, he had only comprehended this 1 rune, which showed how profound this rune was. Not only that, Ji Dong also discovered that the further he progressed in the 5 elements runes, the more difficult it was to comprehend, and even more difficult to use. The 4th rune that he had comprehended was called the Eternal Life rune, the Yang Fire rune, and the Yin Fire rune. 3 months ago, after Ji Dong comprehended the 4th rune, he discovered the mystery of it. Its greatest benefit, as described, was in the word eternal life. With the help of the yin-yang fire rune, any skills below the ultimate killing technique could be stored in the yin-yang crown. The number of crown devil masters could store the number of skills they had. Ji Dong was a dual attribute devil master, so his eternal life rune was also doubled due to his unique advantage. At this time, the fire dragon and flying serpent that Ji Dong had released were the foundation of the demonic skills that he had learned from the flying serpent and Yin Chaoyang. Most of the demonic skills of these 2 powerhouses were displayed in this way. It required a huge amount of energy to condense them. It took Ji Dong more than 20 days to complete the condensation of the 4 dragons and 4 serpents. At this time, when he suddenly displayed it, not only was Fury shocked, even the eyes of Yin Chaoyang and the flying serpent were filled with disbelief. It should be known that even the Supreme Master Yin Chaoyang could only release at most 9 fire dragons at one time. Of course, the power was much greater than what Ji Dong had released at this time, but the number was also limited to 9. Chapter 132. Although the Thunder Emperor Fury possessed the Yang Thunder attribute, he and Ji Dong were fellow disciples of the same sect, and he also learned the dragon-shaped demonic skill. When he saw the 4 dragons and 4 snakes suddenly appear, he was immediately startled. Previously, when Ji Dong transformed into the Flame Monarch's attack, he had already been greatly surprised. Even though he had used his tyrannical demonic power and demonic skill to forcibly block it, the ultimate Yang fire released under the Flame Monarch's body still brought him a lot of trouble. Now that he saw the 4 dragons and 4 snakes again, Fury realized for the first time that his junior brother's strength was enough to pose a threat to him. In the next moment, the Lightning Emperor Fury fully displayed the difference between 7 crowns and 4 crowns to Ji Dong. Facing the sky, Fury let out an earth-shaking roar. He spread his arms, palms facing the sky, and his roar was like the long roar of an enraged dragon. The 7 crowns of lightning on his lightning sun crown flashed, transforming into 7 dazzling bolts of lightning that soared into the sky. Suddenly, 1 dragon roar turned into 7 dragon roars. With Fury's body as the center, the space within a diameter of 50 meters was completely filled with lightning bolts, distorting extremely violently. In midair, the 7 lightning bolts actually turned into 7 huge lightning dragons. They were exactly the same as Fury's Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon mount, just that their bodies were slightly smaller. This was one of Fury's strongest sure-kill skills, 7 Dragons Heaven-Shaking Art. Ji Dong, who had the strength of a 4 or 5 crowns, could only use his own mana to release 1 dragon and 1 snake. However, the 7 crowns Thunder Emperor could release 7 lightning dragons at the same time. This was the difference in mana. 7 lightning dragons against 4 fire dragons and 4 snakes. In midair, the sky was already completely filled with bluish-purple lightning, golden-red extreme Yang fire, and black extreme Yin fire. In terms of momentum, Ji Dong's 4 dragons and 4 snakes had the advantage in terms of quantity. Fury's expression was solemn. He waved his hands in the air, and the 7 lightning dragons resonated with each other in the air. They formed the shape of the Big Dipper and went straight for the 4 dragons and 4 snakes. He wasn't confident that he could gain the upper hand in this attack. At this moment, he naturally didn't have the time to think about how Ji Dong did it. It was also at this moment that a mysterious smile appeared at the corner of Ji Dong's mouth. At the same time that the 4 dragons and 4 snakes were released, he had already flown up once again. Just like when he first attacked, he was still flying close to the ground, but this time, the yin-yang crown above his head had completely turned a deep black. It was the black color of Ding Si's dark yin spiritual fire. The yin fire condensed into a matrix to replace the life-sustaining matrix, appearing behind him like a black hole. The thick black flames instantly expanded, and his body once again became 3 meters tall. Dark Flame Devil King. The soaring serpent could not help but exclaim, "To think that there are actually 2 sovereigns." That's right, what Ji Dong was displaying now was the Dark Flame Devil King physique, the opposite of the Flame Monarch physique, Dark Flame Devil King's descent. This was not the first time that the Dark Flame Devil King had appeared. Back then, when he was facing the 3-crowned Fire Devil Master in the Earth Spirit Mountains, the Dark Flame Devil King had appeared proudly, taking on the opponent's killer move and completing the counterattack. That was the Dark Flame Devil King's natural reaction to being attacked by a fire attribute opponent. The current Ji Dong was no longer that weak little Devil Master who could be sucked dry in an instant. He already had enough power to release the Dark Flame Devil King's pride. Fury naturally saw Ji Dong rushing over again, but he had instantly exploded his killer move, 7 dragons shaking the heavens, and he still had to wholeheartedly control it, so he could not free up his hands to launch another attack. In his view, although Ji Dong, who had transformed into the Dark Flame Devil King, was very strong, He was far less of a threat than the 4 dragons and 4 snakes in the air. Yin Zhaorong looked at the huge magic power that was about to collide in the air, laughed and said, "Fury, this silly boy has been fooled. It's just a bluff. Even if he has a special method to store magic, what he can store is only 4 crown dragons and snake. He can't control such a huge magic fluctuation at all." Ji Dong's movements were extremely fast, and he had already rushed forward dozens of meters in an instant. Suddenly, his body stopped abruptly, and the dark flame Devil King physique instantly converged a little. A strange scene appeared. A dark crescent moon quietly appeared behind him. Even the 4 dragons and 4 snakes in the sky and the 7 dragons shaking the heavens seemed to pause for a moment at this moment. The surroundings were still bright, but the strange thing was that the sun in the sky had disappeared, and what replaced it was actually a crescent moon that was exactly the same as the black moon behind Ji Dong. What kind of killer move is this? Even Yin Zhaoyang's pupils involuntarily shrank. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Ji Dong. Ji Dong's left hand was raised horizontally at his side, and his palm was opened, forming a claw shape. At this moment, he no longer had the valiant ruthlessness from before, and was no longer the tyrant of the generation. Instead, he was filled with elegant coldness. Under the contrast of that death-like darkness, he was already like a real Devil King. From ruthlessness to coldness, the change in temperament was already strange enough. However, the black moon in the air actually shot down a dark ray of light and landed on his left hand. At the same time, the black moon behind him and all the darkness brought by the dark flame Devil King merged together. On the ground there was a bright moon, but in the core world, there was only that dark death-like darkness. This dark moon represented all the darkness in the core world. The moon will make you think of me. Forbidden, 100,000 silent flame eyes. All of the blackness condensed into a pulsating black flame above Ji Dong's left hand. The black flame actually reflected a strange luster. It was clearly a flame, but it gave off a strange feeling like ice. In the next moment, this gloomy and strange black flame had already slid close to the ground with an arrogance that bordered on hysterical. Everywhere it passed, it left behind a path of death-like darkness. The sand on the beach was actually covered with a layer of faint ice crystals, and the grains of sand in the ice crystals quietly disappeared in the black ice. There was no astonishing aura, only that ice-cold coldness, and that deep, gloomy death-like silence. Ji Dong's body also followed closely behind that gloomy black flame and quietly attacked. In order to increase his speed, the soaring Yang Flame's formation was activated. The elegant gloomy coldness quietly changed, and the golden red flame turned him into a ruthless king. Fury cursed in his heart. At his level, he would have a vague sense of the enemy's attack, and he would be able to sense whether the opponent's skill was blocked or not. However, at this moment, when facing this ball of ice-like black flame, Fury realized that he actually did not feel anything at all. The unknown was the most terrifying. Suddenly biting the tip of his tongue, Fury roared angrily. There was a loud rumble of thunder, and behind him, a shadow that looked exactly like the purple thunder sky dragon appeared. This could be said to be a thunder totem that Fury had created himself. The purple thunder sky dragon stared at the gloomy black flame on the ground. It suddenly opened its mouth, and a huge bolt of bluish-purple lightning broke through the air, directly blasting towards the black flame. This was already the limit of what Fury could do. Not only did he have to control the powerful 7 dragons' heaven-shaking art, but he also had to block Ji Dong's strange attack. At this time, the power of the 7 crowns had completely exploded. It was also at this time that Fury felt that something was wrong. With his strength, when he controlled the 7 dragons to attack again, he did not have much energy left. How could Ji Dong still be able to attack so calmly after releasing the 4 dragons and 4 snakes, and even use a sure-kill skill? There was only one answer. The 4 dragons and 4 snakes in the air, Ji Dong did not control them at all. They were just purely releasing energy. The reality proved Fury's conjecture. In the instant that his lightning came into contact with the black flame, in midair, Ji-dong's 4 dragons and 4 snakes had already collided with the 7 dragons' heaven-shaking art. Almost instantly, the 4 dragons and 4 snakes were instantly turned into ashes in the rumbling thunder, and the 7 lightning dragons only dimmed a little. Not only did Ji-dong not control the 4 dragons and 4 snakes, but he also used all the magic that the 4 dragons and 4 snakes possessed to increase their size. The attack power could be said to be negligible. He only had one purpose, and that was to scare Fury, make him desperately resist, and buy enough time for himself. Fury had no time to pay attention to the changes in the air, because the strange scene in front of him made his heart that was filled with strong confidence suddenly turn cold. Although the lightning that the purple thunder heavenly dragon totem spat out was not considered a sure-kill skill, it was enough to be called a sure-kill skill. With the power of Fury's 7 crowns, in theory, it was enough to compete with the sure-kill skill of a 4 crowns devil. However, when the lightning and the black flame collided, the result was completely out of Fury's expectations. The bluish-purple lightning instantly turned black, and the terrifying explosive power that should have disappeared in a flash actually turned into a lightning form in midair. The form of a black lightning. The dark black flame on the ground did not disappear, but disappeared in a flash, and the lightning in midair seemed to melt and disappear. Ji-dong's body directly collided with it, and did not stop at all. Fury finally realized the danger. He focused his mind and used all his strength to control the 7 dragons in the air to defend. However, from the air to the ground, there was still a distance, and at certain times, distance was enough to determine the direction of the battle. The dark black flame could not be dodged at all, and the moment the lightning melted, Fury could not use the next skill. The black light flashed, and there was no sign of an explosion, but Fury's entire body was completely frozen in place, motionless. Thunder Emperor Fury, the Thunder Emperor whose entire body was filled with terrifying lightning, at this time, the lightning on his body had completely disappeared, and what was left was only black, an extremely gloomy black. If he had to describe his current appearance, then he would be a black ice sculpture, and his entire body had been sealed in ice. Only the 2 honorable rankers, Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong, could clearly feel that Fury's life force was being frantically extracted by the black ice, and Fury himself was mobilizing his mana at all costs, trying to break through this layer of black, but he was unable to do so. The 7 dragons in midair changed their direction and flew straight towards Fury. At this time, Ji-dong stopped 5 meters in front of Fury and raised his right hand to his chest. A cluster of golden-red flames instantly rose, and the sun-fire formation bloomed calmly. His mana was no longer enough to support him to transform into the Flame Tyrant, but his remaining mana was still enough for him to use a skill. The sky was bright and the sun shone on the earth. At the same time, a sun-like brilliance rose behind Ji-dong, and was the exact opposite of the dark moon from before. This golden sun was filled with direct, ruthless, and crazy heat. Forbidden, 100,000, brilliant sun cone. Yes, there was no doubt that this was the first ultimate skill that Ji-dong had. It was a powerful ultimate skill that only belonged to the Flame Tyrant, and it was the complete opposite of the yin and yang attributes of Forbidden, 100,000, and Ghostly Flame Ice. Without the assistance of the Flame Tyrant body, there was no doubt that Ji-dong could not fully unleash the full power of this ultimate skill, but the Thunder Emperor had been completely sealed in the Ghostly Flame Ice. Even Ji-dong himself had never tried the effect of the combination skill produced by the Ultimate Yin Fire Ultimate Skill and the Ultimate Yang Fire Ultimate Skill. Boom! The violent roar set off an unparalleled wave of air, and the tide of the sea was stirred up by dozens of meters. A figure flew out like a cannonball, and this time, he flew for hundreds of meters before falling heavily to the ground. Zhaorong! Yin Chaoyang shouted in a low voice. Without his reminder, Yin Zhaorong had already flashed out. His whole body seemed to be sliding on the ground, and he turned a blind eye to the huge shock wave produced by the explosion. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived at the center of the explosion, and Zhu Yan also flew out. His target was the figure that fell 100 meters away. Fury stood at the center of the explosion, gasping for breath. Although the black ice crystal that sealed him had disappeared, his face was still covered in black gas at this time. From time to time, there would be unstable lightning circling around his body, and the lightning had actually turned black. Yin Xiaorong put one hand on Fury's shoulder, and circles of black halos were immediately extracted from Fury's body and integrated into Yin Xiaorong's body. Yin Xiaorong actually shivered, and could not help but say in surprise, "What a pure ultimate Yin fire!" With her identity as a primordial unity of the Fuhua series, she actually felt cold when absorbing the remaining magic of Ji Dong's Dark Flame Devil King's ultimate skill. It could be seen how powerful the magic of this attack was. At this time, Yin Xiaorong finally understood why, even with the strength of Fury's 7 crowns, he could not break the shackles of that ultimate skill. Previously, at the last moment of the collision, Ji Dong did not use the brilliant sun all to attack Fury. Instead, he bombarded the air close to his body. The sky scarf 7 dragons returned to help, and the huge shock wave produced by the explosion on Fury's body sent Ji Dong flying. The ice of ghostly flame on the surface of Fury's body was finally dissolved. Yin Xiaorong arrived in time to help him extract the remaining ultimate Yin fire, so as to avoid any future trouble. It should be known that the 7 dragons' return explosion had already caused serious injuries to Fury, and Ji Dong's magic was exhausted. This battle actually ended with both sides suffering. Chapter 133. With Yin Xiaorong's help, Fury heaved a sigh of relief, and his chest slowly returned to normal. However, the shock in his eyes could not be erased. He stared 100 meters away and said anxiously, "Master's wife, quickly go and see little junior brother. I couldn't hold back for a moment, and I'm afraid I've hurt him." Yin Xiaorong chuckled and said, "Don't worry about your junior brother, he will be fine." She clearly saw that Fury's attack with the power of 7 dragons was not aimed at Ji Dong. Ji Dong was only sent flying by the aftermath. With the abnormal defense of Ji Dong's vermilion bird transformation and winged serpent transformation, how could he be injured so easily? Yin Xiaorong couldn't be more satisfied with these 2 disciples. When she was young, she was also an amazing genius, but to reach Fury's current cultivation, she had to wait until she was 40 years old. Fury's strength was needless to say. He was the first seat in the history of the Yin-Yang school, and Ji Dong was an absolute surprise. Although she and Yin Xiaoyang both knew that Ji Dong's talent was amazing and he was extremely hard-working, they didn't expect him to be able to compete with Fury, who was at the level of 7 crowns, in actual combat with his own strength. Even if he used some tricks, it was also a guarantee of powerful strength. If it was a devil master with 4 crowns, he might not even be able to take one move from Fury. Sure enough, on the other side, Zhu Yan had already helped Ji Dong to stand up. Although his face was a little pale and the vermilion bird transformation on his body had been retracted into his skin, Ji Dong obviously still had the ability to move. When the 2 returned to Yin Xiaoyang at the same time, they couldn't help but look at each other and smile. Ji Dong took the initiative to say, "Grandmaster, I lost. Although senior brother was attacked by my Ding E Hell Yin fire, he still has the strength to fight, but my magic power has been exhausted. I will definitely lose." Fury hurriedly said, "Little junior brother, now is not the time to be modest. Your last ultimate skill didn't work on me. If I remember correctly, that was the move you used to kill the level 58 GFing. If I were hit by your second move, the Yin and Yang dual attribute combination skill, even if I didn't die, I would still lose a layer of skin, let alone counterattack." Ji Dong sincerely said, "How can junior brother not know that senior brother let me win? If senior brother had attacked with all his strength, I wouldn't have had the chance to use such a demonic skill. Even at the last moment, if senior brother had used the power of 7 dragons to attack me first before saving himself, he would still have been able to escape. But I would have died without a burial. No matter what, I have lost this battle. Fury still wanted to say something, but Yin Zhaoyang said, "Enough." Hearing the Grandmaster's words, the two immediately quieted down. Yin Zhaoyang nodded and said, "I am very satisfied with your performance today. Whether it is the momentum in the battle, the use of magic, the coordination with the 5 elements formation, the calculation in the battle and the precise control of magic, you have reached the limit of what you can achieve. Even if you were not facing Fury, but a real 7-crown magician, you would still be able to perish together with your opponent if he was careless because you are only a 4-crown magician. Even I and Zhao Rong have underestimated your combat ability." Ji Dong didn't say anything, but he had indeed given it his all in today's battle. He had been preparing for it since a few days ago when he confirmed that this battle was going to take place. He had mastered all the skills he could use, just how many skills he could use, and what effect each skill would have. This was a competition, and he was not allowed to use any mana replenishing potions or crystal cores. He had squeezed out every bit of his strength, and the final result was not much different from what he had expected. Yin Zhaoyang's gaze turned to Fury and said, "Contrary to Ji Dong, I am very dissatisfied with your performance today." Fury's face froze and respectfully listened to Yin Zhaoyang's teachings. "I heard that you have the nickname of Thunder Emperor in the Heavenly STEM Academy, right?" Fury was a little embarrassed and said, "That's just nonsense." Yin Zhaoyang's face turned cold and said, "What nonsense? What is thunder? It is awe-inspiring righteousness, it is the majestic energy of heaven and earth, it is the great accomplishment of masculinity, it is the sublimation of fire. Look at what you did just now. As a Thunder Demon Master, you only know how to defend passively? Without a storm of attacks, do you deserve to be called Thunder Emperor? That's right, today you faced your junior brother, and you must have some misgivings in your heart. But, have you ever thought, if today you only faced a 4-crown Demon Master, what would you do? Teasing your opponent like a cat catching a teacher? When you used the 7 Dragons Heaven Shocking Art, you already used your full strength, but at that time, the battle situation was already completely out of your control. With your junior brother's strength, could he control 4 dragons and 4 snakes? What was going on in your head? A lion needs to use all its strength to catch a rabbit, and you? If your junior brother's last attack had landed on your body, do you think it would be as simple as losing a layer of skin? You wouldn't even have a bone residue left. Although there was no real collision, the power of that blow was infinitely close to the primary super killing skill. Hearing Yin Zhaoyang's words, Fury's eyes could not help but produce a trace of horror. It should be known that with his 7-crown strength, he had only just touched the surface of the super killing skill. If he wanted to use the super killing skill in the real sense, he must have the strength of a 9-crown level to be able to use the super killing skill alone. Even so, each supreme expert generally had only one super killing skill. Continuous improvement and improvement of the power of the super killing skill was what they pursued at that level. Ji Dong was only 4 crowns, not 5 crowns, but he was already close to the primary super killing skill. Even if Fury was more confident in himself, he would never think that his body could withstand it. Moreover, when he was hit by the Dark Flame Devil's killing skill, his whole body had a very special feeling, as if his vitality was burning on its own. No matter how hard he struggled, the magic in his body was completely restricted, unable to move. Although he did not understand the mystery, but at this time he could also imagine the power of this killing skill, even more terrifying than the direct attack of the Sun Cone. Grandmaster, I was wrong. Fury bowed his head in shame. Yin Zhaoyang's face was always so calm, lightly said. It is the greatest virtue to know one's mistake and correct it. This battle, consider it a draw between the two of you. If you want to bring your junior brother to the Saint Evil battlefield, you must bring him back. Your character is too straightforward. Discuss things with your junior brother. Don't pay attention to the people of the Heavenly STEM Academy, just take it as an experience. Ji Dong was pleasantly surprised. Grandmaster, you agree to let me go to the Saint Evil battlefield? Yin Zhaoyang lightly said. Ji Dong, you are very talented in actual combat. In this aspect, you are even better than your senior brother. But remember, in actual combat, you are not allowed to make mistakes. A momentary mistake will lead to the loss of the whole game. The price is not only your own life, but also the life of your companions. The saying of the Heavenly STEM Saints has a long history. You can contact them more, but don't be too concerned. Only yourself is the most worthy to rely on. No matter when, you must increase your strength as the foundation, but let you increase your combat experience, under the condition of ensuring your own safety to obtain some precious materials. Yes, Grandmaster. Although Yin Zhaoyang's tone was always indifferent, but Ji Dong could clearly feel his concern for him. Yin Zhaoyang said, there are still more than 3 months before the Saint Evil passage opens. Zhu Yan, in these days, you have to help Fury perfect his equipment, make a set of suitable magic equipment for Ji Dong, and increase his battle strength. Zhu Yan chuckled. Master, forging isn't a problem, but I don't have any high-grade materials here anymore. Do you think we should? Yin Zhaoyang lightly looked at him. You dare to take advantage of me, take it. As he spoke, a ring flew from his hand and landed in Zhu Yan's hand. The materials inside are enough for you to use. Although they are not the best, they are still rare materials. Don't be stingy, use them as much as possible on these two children. Zhu Yan was overjoyed, took the ring, and said, Master, don't worry, I will make the best use of it. Even if you want me to waste it, I won't give it up. Fury brother, come with me. Ji Dong and Fury looked at each other, smiled, and hurriedly followed Zhu Yan. Zhu Yan's forging required the assistance of Ji Dong's ultimate dual fire, so that he could forge magic weapons faster and better. When they arrived at the place where Zhu Yan and Fury lived, Zhu Yan went to busy himself, while Ji Dong and Fury sat in front of the door to rest. Fury was injured, while Ji Dong was overdrawn with magic. Both of them were not feeling well. Junior brother, your magic skill is really powerful. Can you tell me, what is the effect of your ultimate skill? I just feel like I have fallen into an ice cellar. I feel myself getting weaker and weaker. I can't seem to break free no matter how hard I struggle. Ji Dong chuckled and said, in terms of attack power, the ultimate skill Ice of Flames is not as good as the brilliant Sun All, but it has an extremely special characteristic. As a ultimate skill, it is not used to attack, but to erode and devour. After being hit, unless the ultimate fire in the Ice of Flames completely invades the opponent's body, the opponent will not be able to move, and the skill cannot be interrupted from the inside. They must blast it away from the outside like you, senior brother, or not be hit at all. It can be said that once hit by this skill, it will be very difficult to fight back. The process of the ultimate fire fusing with the opponent will take at least 10 seconds, and even if the opponent regains the ability to move after the fusion, with such a huge amount of ultimate fire in the body, how much combat power will be left? Moreover, 10 seconds is enough for me to do a lot of things. Fury said with lingering fear. The effect of this skill of yours is too overbearing, it's almost like a death sentence. Ji Dong said. Actually, senior brother, because this is the first time you have encountered it, you only felt its perverse power after being hit. But in reality, against this skill, you only need to use an ultimate skill of the same power to counteract its attack. So when I use the Ice of Flames, I will only use it when I judge that the opponent will not be able to counteract it with a skill, and I will not use it lightly. Actually, this skill is best used against opponents in the air. If there's a chance in the future, I will test it out for you. As the two brothers were talking, suddenly, a blue light flashed, and the soaring serpent appeared between the two without warning. Fury, go into the house first. I have something to say to little Dong Dong. The soaring serpent said with a serious look in its eyes. Fury was stunned for a moment, but still nodded. Fury had just walked into the house when the soaring serpent's body had already emitted a blue light, enveloping itself and Ji Dong's body, isolating them from the outside world. Little Dong Dong, tell me the truth. Did the skill you used inherit it from the two sovereigns of the core world? Ji Dong was startled, but he had no intention of hiding it from the soaring serpent. In this past year, the soaring serpent had given him even more pointers than Yin Zhaoyang, especially the soaring serpent transformation. In today's battle, Ji Dong had fully understood that the effects of the soaring serpent transformation were not inferior to the vermilion bird transformation. After several violent collisions, he was actually not injured in the slightest. Although he had not been directly hit by Fury's skill, the level of explosion from his battle with Fury was still extremely terrifying. If the vermilion bird transformation was said to be an external defense, then the soaring serpent transformation was the internal cornerstone. In the process of releasing the soaring serpent transformation, Ji Dong could clearly feel that his own body had become extremely perverse. Even so, the soaring serpent had told him that his vermilion bird transformation and soaring serpent transformation had not been truly activated. When he could truly activate these two great skills, his defensive power would be comparable to that of a divine beast. Yes. Ji Dong gave an affirmative answer. The soaring serpent's eyes flickered with uncertainty as he said, "Then, does that mean that you should be acquainted with Her Royal Highness the Flaming Bar's Empress?" His voice sounded a little urgent, and even carried a hint of longing. Ji Dong's heart skipped a beat and he said, "I'm sorry, Senior Soaring Serpent, I cannot answer your question." He had promised the Flaming Bar that he would not tell anyone about the matter between him and her. Even if the Soaring Serpent had already guessed it, he would still not reveal it. He had always been a person who took promises very seriously, and this was even more so a promise to the Flaming Bar. The Soaring Serpent said seriously, "Little Dong Dong, this is very important to me. I will not force you, but if you really know her, please help me convey that in this world, she is the only one who can change my infertility. I am willing to pay any price in exchange for one of her natal red lotus seed." Chapter 134. No. Hearing the soaring serpent's words, Ji Dong replied almost immediately. The image of Lai Yan's agony when she had plucked out the lotus seed surfaced in his mind. How could he bear to let her go through it again? Even if Lai Yan herself didn't agree to it, Ji Dong was unwilling to see her suffer the same pain again. However, as soon as he said those two words, an apologetic look appeared in Ji Dong's eyes. "I'm sorry, Senior Soaring Serpent. I really can't help you with this. Is there no other way? Even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a pot of boiling oil, I'm willing to do it for you. However, I really can't help you with this." Towards the Soaring Serpent, Ji Dong's feelings came from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, his feelings were extremely conflicted. He could help the Soaring Serpent, but he was unwilling to see the Flaming Bar suffer. This kind of feeling made his heart ache. The Soaring Serpent's eyes were filled with disappointment. "Little Dong Dong, it looks like you really do know the Empress of the Flaming Bar. No wonder you have such a unique talent. I'm only begging you to pass on the message. Can't you do that?" Ji Dong fell silent, his heart struggling. He could see how much the Soaring Serpent desired it, but the Flaming Bar's agony was still vivid in his mind. On one side was his mentor and helpful friend, on the other side was his spiritual sustenance. He really did not know how to choose. Looking into the Soaring Serpent's eyes, he could not bring himself to reject it again. However, he knew that if he were to ask the Flaming Bar might actually agree. The natal red lotus. Just these 4 words alone showed how important it was to the Flaming Bar. It could be said that it was the Flaming Bar's body. One could imagine the loss of a lotus seed. Just at this moment, Ji Dong suddenly felt a warm sensation on the left side of his chest. A faint red light rippled from his body, and a familiar aura filled the air. Soaring Serpent, are you really willing to give up everything in exchange? The Flaming Bar's dignified voice rang out. Even the Soaring Serpent of the heavenly stem divine beasts showed some respect when it sensed her presence. However, it was mostly excited and uneasy. Yes, I'm willing. The Soaring Serpent quickly replied, as if it was grasping at straws. Flaming Bar. Ji Dong shouted anxiously. The Flaming Bar said calmly, Ji Dong, nothing will happen. I'm just making a fair exchange. Meng Shi, listen up. If you want to exchange one of my lotus seeds, I have 3 conditions. Meng Shi's emotions had already calmed down slightly, and he said solemnly, Please speak, Your Majesty, as long as it is within my power. The Flaming Bar said, Among the heavenly stem divine beasts, you are the only one that is not restricted by the contract. I want you to help me find and collect the 5 elemental divine stones. You have existed since ancient times, and no one understands the continent better than you do. I believe that this will not be a difficult task for you. I want one of each type, and the volume must not be smaller than a cubic meter. The Soaring Serpent was taken aback. 5 elemental divine stones? What do you want them for? Although they are good, they should not be of any use to you. The Flaming Bar said, You don't need to worry about what I do. Just help me find them. That is the first condition. The second condition is that you find 4 Class 9 crystal crowns for me. 1 for each of the light and darkness elements. I believe that it should not be difficult to find them in your collection. The Soaring Serpent smiled bitterly. I have the light element, but I don't have the darkness element. You also know that I cannot enter the holy evil battlefield, and even more cannot step into the darkness 5 elements continent. The Flaming Bar displayed the majesty of the Empress at this moment and said coldly, This is your problem, it has nothing to do with me. The last condition is that I want the snakeskin you have shed over the years. If I remember correctly, there should be 81 of them. If you can fulfill these 3 conditions, I will give you a lotus seed. The Soaring Serpent's breathing became rapid, and he said, Your Majesty, your demands are too harsh. The Flaming Bar said indifferently, You should understand that this is an equivalent exchange. Gather all these things and hand them over to Ji Dong, and I will naturally ask him to give you a lotus seed. Seeing the hesitation in the Soaring Serpent's eyes, Ji Dong understood that although the things that the Flaming Bar asked for were extremely precious, they were only equal in value to the lotus seed she had given him. Previously, in order to not owe the vermilion bird a favor, the Flaming Bar had given him a lotus seed. It was no wonder that the vermilion bird was so grateful. The Soaring Serpent took a deep breath and said, All right, I will try my best. The 5 elements divine stone is not difficult, I have my own collection, and I can also give you my snakeskin. Only the darkness crystal crown is a little troublesome. I am afraid that only the Yin-Yang Chaoyang has it. I will think of a way to exchange it with him. The Flaming Bar said, If it was not for the things that you have done for Ji Dong, I will not exchange with you. My lotus seed will open that door for you. Whether or not you can comprehend it will depend on yourself. You can leave now. I have something to say to Ji Dong. The matter of Ji Dong knowing me, please keep it a secret. The Soaring Serpent nodded, and the blue light converged, and the divine beast Ding Hua disappeared in the blink of an eye. Flaming Bar, do you really need those things? But, will losing a lotus seed affect your body? As soon as the Soaring Serpent left, Ji Dong couldn't wait to ask. Without the Soaring Serpent, the Flaming Bar's voice clearly became gentler. Of course I need these things, they can protect me, you don't need to ask too much. Wait for the Soaring Serpent to give you these things, just call me. Ji Dong nodded and said, Flaming Bar, have you finished your closed-door training? The Flaming Bar said, Not yet, it will take about half a year or so. This time, when you go to the holy evil battlefield, remember two things. First, do not go too deep into the holy evil island. Second, be separated from your companions. Don't think too much about the heavenly stem holy disciples, and don't go looking for the heavenly stem holy armor. Your strength is still not enough. Ji-dong's eyes flickered with strong emotions. Flaming bar, I want to see you. The flaming bar was silent for a moment, then softly said, when you come back from the holy evil battlefield, travel around the continent. When the time comes, we will meet again. In the holy evil battlefield, always protect yourself as the #1 priority. Don't try to show off. I want to continue training. The red lotus light quietly faded away. Ji-dong stood there, lost for a long time. Even just hearing the flaming bar's voice would cause his heart to sway. The scene of the party kept replaying in his mind. He knew that his relationship with the flaming bar had already undergone some subtle changes, but there still wasn't any substantial progress. He hadn't seen the flaming bar for more than a year. The sudden sound of the flaming bar's voice immediately exploded in his heart. Even the excitement of going to the holy evil battlefield was washed away by this longing. Brother, come quickly, have you recovered some of your mana? Zhu Yan's voice came from the room. Ji-dong came back to his senses, forcefully suppressing the gushing longing in his heart. He forced himself to walk into the room. Although Zhu Yan and Fury lived here, in reality, Fury only had a very small room, while Zhu Yan's room was at least 10 times bigger. There were all kinds of metals scattered everywhere in the room. It was even messier than when he was in the Heavenly STEM Academy, only the huge furnace was still the same. The blazing fire seemed to have never been extinguished. When Ji-dong walked into the room, Fury was not there. He seemed to have returned to his room to rest, while Zhu Yan was dancing and laughing excitedly. He said, "Haha, this is great. Teacher is really generous this time, with so many high-grade materials. It's enough to refine a top-notch mana weapon. Brother, you're here, hurry up and recover your mana. It'll be a waste if I don't refine the materials Master gave me. It'll be a waste if I don't refine them with the ultimate dual flames. I've already made most of Fury's equipment over the years, mainly you. Unfortunately, you still don't have a mount. Don't be stingy with the crystal cores, use them to recover your mana, and I'll discuss with you what equipment to forge for you." Ji-dong took out 2 grade 3 crystal cores, and with the help of the crystal cores, he released the yin and yang dual flames to condense the array, quickly recovering his mana. Zhu Yan pondered as he asked, "Brother, do you need a weapon?" Ji-dong shook his head and said, "I don't think so, I've never used a weapon before. My hands are my weapons." Zhu Yan nodded and said, "That's true, but it's only temporary that you don't need a weapon. When you have a mount in the future, you'll still need a weapon. Think about it, when your senior brother was riding that purple thunder heaven dragon, if he didn't have a long weapon, how much of his demonic skill could he display? How would he be able to coordinate with his own mount? You already have the twin radiance of the sun and moon, so it's enough for now. This time, I plan to use these 3 months to forge a set of mana armor for you, matching it with your vermilion bird transformation so that it won't affect your flight. This way, with the external armor and your vermilion bird inner armor, your defense will be terrifying. You won't have to be afraid even if you face a 7-crown demon master. Of course, you won't meet a 7-crown demon master in the holy evil battlefield." Ji-dong asked doubtfully, "Why?" Zhu Yan said, "Have you forgotten? According to the agreement of the 5 Elements continent, only demon masters under the age of 50 can enter the holy evil battlefield. Under the age of 50, someone as abnormal as your senior brother is absolutely rare. The holy evil battlefield is filled with all kinds of mysterious situations. For you, the strongest opponents are the demon beasts, not the demon masters of the 5 Elements continent." Ji-dong said, "Big brother, I actually don't understand in the holy evil battlefield what is considered a victory." Zhu Yan said, "Now that you're about to go, you're really calm. Young people like you who put all their attention on cultivation are really rare. Every time the holy evil battlefield opens, the young demon masters from both sides enter the holy evil battlefield, then the passage will close by itself. Both sides will enter the huge demonic formation of the holy evil island at the same time. Inside the formation, the demon masters from both sides will be randomly sent to any location in the first circle of the holy evil island. Oh right, the holy evil island is divided into 18 circles. Each circle is called the Devil's 18 Circles. The deeper you go, the more powerful the demon beasts will be. Legend has it that there is a huge secret in the center of the holy evil island, but no one knows what this secret space is. Because entering the demonic formation will be randomly sent, so everyone is likely to meet a young master from another continent. You will have to face both demon beasts and enemies. In the 49 days, you must obtain at least 1 crystal crown and 10 crystal nuclei of the opposite attribute in order to get out of the demonic formation. In order to obtain the crystal crown, you must kill the person from the other continent. At the end of the 4th day, both sides will gather their crystal crown. The celestial centipede of the holy evil island will appear by itself. The celestial centipede will tilt towards the side with the most crystal crowns. At this time, a special passage will appear, and the winner will not be attacked by the demon beasts on the holy evil island. This is the only chance to break the defense of the other side. Ji Dong doubtfully asked, "For so many years, no one has been able to break the defense of the other side, right?" Zhu Yan chuckled and said, "Whether or not they can break the defense is one thing, but at least it's better than a large number of demon masters being killed by the demon beasts on the island. Moreover, the direction of the celestial centipede also represents the strength of the younger generation of both sides. After the last few battles in the holy evil battlefield, the winning side has rarely attacked the other side. After all, this disadvantage is too great. However, both sides are still pursuing victory in order to suppress the other side with momentum. Therefore, the battle between the holy evil battlefield and the holy evil battlefield is more like a battle between the two continents. Without absolute certainty, no one will try to break the defense of the other side. Don't you think that the current peaceful situation is very good? I always thought that the battle between the holy evil battlefield and the holy evil battlefield is an opportunity for you young people. Good things can appear at any time in the holy evil battlefield. Crystal nuclei and corpses of high-level demon beasts are all rare treasures. Brother, after you go in this time, don't forget to bring them out." Hearing Zhu Yan's relaxed tone, Ji Dong finally had a comprehensive understanding of the battle between the holy evil battlefield and the holy evil battlefield. Zhu Yan said, "All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Brother, let me help you measure your body first. You're 16 this year, and your figure has not completely taken shape. This is a troublesome matter. I have to consider the problem of how your body will change in the future. After all, this external oracle bone cannot be compared to the vermilion bird armor that has fused with your skin. Fortunately, the materials that Master gave me this time include the extremely precious metal crystal crown. Although it's only at the 5th grade, it's enough. Using the metal crystal crown to make an extension fluid, coupled with my unique folding casting method, no matter how your body changes in the future, this magic power armor will stick to your body." As he spoke, Zhu Yan took out a long tape measure and began to measure Ji Dong's body. Chapter 135. Crafting a magical weapon was definitely an extremely intricate study. Ji Dong believed that he had already reached the pinnacle of bartending, but when he saw Zhu Yan crafting a magical weapon for the first time, he was still so shocked that he could not close his mouth. He was deeply captivated by the skill. There were 5 main steps to forging a magical weapon. The first step was naturally the preparation of the materials. If one wanted to forge an outstanding magical weapon, the materials could be said to be crucial. The more mana contained in the materials, the better the quality of the materials, and the greater the beneficial effect on the magical weapon during the forging. The two main casting materials were metals and magical beast cores. Of course, if there was a crystal crown, the effect would be even better, especially for an extreme magic magician like Ji-dong. Whether it was the crystal crown of the Darkness continent or the crystal crown of the Radiance continent, he could use them both. The second step of casting magic weapons was the fusion of materials. Zhu Yan had told Ji-dong that one of the main reasons why the number of magic weapon casters on the continent was extremely small was because of the fusion of materials. Only fire magicians could rely on the property of fire-restraining metal to carry out metal fusion. An excellent magic weapon could not be forged with a single type of metal. Although Zhu Yan used the most primitive method of forging magic weapons by hand, Ji-dong was extremely surprised to find that all the magic weapons he forged were alloys. Before he saw it with his own eyes, he would never believe that someone could complete alloy casting by hand, but Zhu Yan had done it. The higher the grade of the metal, the higher the melting point. To be able to melt most of the metal, one had to be at least a 6-crown Heaven Knight level fire element magic master. Just this point alone limited this profession. How many magic masters were there on the continent? And how many experts of this level could endure the loneliness to research and forge magic weapons? Yin Zhaorong had once told Ji-dong that in terms of cultivation talent, Zhu Yan was actually above Zhu Rong. It was because he had spent all his energy on the research of magic weapons that he had not made any progress after reaching the 7-crown level. It could be said that Zhu Yan had given up his future as a magician and devoted himself to the research of magic weapons. There were too few magicians above the Heaven Knight level who were willing to sacrifice like him and had such talent. Therefore, in the entire Radiance continent, true top-level magic weapon forging masters were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. After completing the fusion of materials, it was the third step of forging magic weapons, the forging of the main body of the weapon. According to the different requirements of attack and defense, the forged metal would be forged into various shapes. Then came the fourth step, the refinement of the details of the magic weapon. Even the most ordinary magic weapon would need to be embedded with a magical beast core. The polishing and adjustment of the magic weapon would all be completed in the fourth step. The last step was the branding of the magic weapon's formation. Since the ancient times until now, most of the formations had already disappeared. Many magic weapons would be completed at the fourth step. However, as the disciple of a sovereign, Zhu Yan still grasped some simple formations. Thus, embedding the formations in the magic weapon as well as experimenting and adjusting it as a whole would become the last step of his forging, as well as the final perfection. Any magic weapon forged by Zhu Yan would definitely be considered a fine product after going through these 5 steps. This was also the reason why he had an extremely high status in the Heavenly STEM Academy. If not for the siblings Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong, it would not have been easy to take him away. Normally, Zhu Yan had to strive for perfection in his forging, let alone now that he was forging for Ji-dong. After measuring his body, Zhu Yan began to design without eating or sleeping. Ji-dong also stayed by his side to cultivate mana. It took Zhu Yan 3 whole days to complete the design of the entire set of magic armor, and only started after several modifications. The first step of forging was naturally not a problem to choose the materials. Yin Zhaoyang had given Zhu Yan enough materials for him to squander. After 7 days, Zhu Yan chose the final metal synthesis plan after many experiments and compounding. Only then did he begin to call Ji-dong to help him forge. The fire in the quaint casting furnace was blazing, and the blazing flame was burning 36 kinds of rare metals, each with its own characteristics. Zhu Yan put them into the casting furnace one by one in a certain order and quantity ratio. He put one hand on the metal, and the other hand constantly urged his powerful third fire magic to inject into it, and from time to time added some crystal nuclei to enhance the intensity of the burning and to serve as a catalyst for metal fusion. Forging magic weapons was extremely costly, which was another reason why there were so few magic weapon forgers. Without a large amount of rare materials to squander, it was impossible to become an excellent magic weapon forger. Ji Dong, inject dual flames. Zhu Yan shouted. Ji Dong, who had been waiting beside him, raised both palms at the same time. The golden Bingwu primordial yang sacred fire and the black dingy underworld spiritual fire were injected at the same time. The dual flames directly turned into a golden and black vortex that fell into the furnace. Suddenly, the originally fiery red furnace suddenly dimmed. In the next moment, the entire furnace had been completely replaced by the two-colored vortex, and a series of surging explosions continuously erupted from the metal in the furnace. Zhu Yan stared at the changes in the furnace and shouted again, "Increase the input." Ji Dong said in a deep voice, "Brother, if the extreme flames are too strong, will they destroy your furnace?" Zhu Yan said, "It's fine. The inner part of my furnace is made from the powder of the 5 elements divine stone and forged with ancient divine iron. It is a divine weapon in the world of forging, called the 5 elements forging divine furnace. Even if Master used all his mana, it would be impossible to destroy it just by burning it." Divine stone of 5 elements? Ji Dong's heart skipped a beat when he heard those words. He could still clearly remember that the flaming bar had requested for the soaring serpent to have these items. As he increased the output of the dual flames, he could not help but ask, "Brother, just what is the divine stone of 5 elements?" Zhu Yan's attention was completely focused on the 36 metals in the furnace. He subconsciously answered, "The divine stone of 5 elements are 10 types of gemstones that contain extreme yin and yang magic. They contain tremendous amounts of magic and are extremely pure, making them extremely rare. They are supreme-grade materials for forging magical weapons. I've read in ancient texts that in ancient times, if one wanted to create a magical skill scroll above the level of a sure kill technique, the scroll itself had to be mixed with the powder of at least one type of divine stone of 5 elements." Hearing Zhu Yan's words, Ji Dong could not help but have a flash of inspiration. Yao Qianshu had once told him that with the divine stone of 5 elements, he would be able to create a magical skill scroll. However, he had always been engrossed in cultivation and did not have the time to study it. How could the divine stone of 5 elements be used on a scroll? What did the scroll itself look like? He knew nothing about that. Zhu Yan's words had undoubtedly opened a door to the creation of magical skill scrolls. Forging magical weapons was not something that he could learn in a short period of time. However, he had the unique ability of the divine stone of 5 element. If he could become a magical skill scroll forger, not only would he be a unique existence on the continent, his strength would also increase greatly. Thinking of that, Ji Dong already had a rough idea in his mind. Zhu Yan could not possibly know how to create a magical skill scroll, but the soaring serpent that had lived since ancient times would know something. If it still did not work, he could still ask the flaming bar. "Brother, strengthen the fire a little more. The metals are about to melt." Zhu Yan's voice temporarily interrupted Ji Dong's thoughts. As expected, among the 36 metals that Zhu Yan had placed in a certain order and position, the few that were the hardest to melt had already begun to liquefy. All 36 metals were already showing signs of fusing. They basically took up half of the space in the 5 elements divine furnace. However, the 36 metals produced different colors, giving off a messy feeling. Zhu Yan's expression turned grim. He took out a metal rod made of unknown material from his storage magic artifact and inserted it into the furnace, stirring it. At the same time, Ji Dong also increased the output of his ultimate dual flames, causing the metals to melt even more thoroughly. A bag of dark 7-colored powder was thrown into the 5 elements divine furnace by Zhu Yan. Immediately, Ji Dong's ultimate dual flames burned even more vigorously. Soon after, Zhu Yan added more than 20 other materials. Gradually, as the 36 liquids of different colors fused together, the impurities within them were completely destroyed by the ultimate dual flames, leaving behind only the purest portion. The golden red liquid was constantly stirred within the 5 elements forging godly furnace. Strangely enough, even in such a high temperature that surpassed even magma, the 5 elements forging godly furnace remained unmoved. A hint of the most neutral and peaceful laws of the world could be vaguely seen, completely unaffected by the heat within the furnace. Ji-dong understood that the reason why the 5 elements forging godly furnace could do this was definitely because the 5 elements divine stones had produced the effect of fusing the 5 elements together, complementing each other. The 5 elements divine stones were not something that the 5 demon masters could compare to, which was why such a scene had been created. Just as Ji-dong's mana was about to run out, Zhu Yan happily shouted, "Alright, stop. Brother, hurry up and recover your mana. I'll still need your help later." Ji-dong did not say anything else. He walked straight to the side, activated the mana-gathering array, and went to cultivate and recover his mana. Zhu Yan carefully used an item made of special material to release the fused liquid from the 5 elements forging godly furnace, condensing it into a huge piece of metal. He did not use any external force to cool it down. As soon as the liquid left the high temperature of the 5 elements forging godly furnace, it quickly completed its own fusion process, forming an extremely beautiful golden red metal with faint cloud patterns. It looked like the color of the sun. At this moment, only this piece of metal existed in Zhu Yan's eyes. He replaced it with a sledgehammer, and with a sudden strike, he picked up the rapidly cooling piece of metal and heavily landed it on the huge iron anvil beside him. At the same time, the sledgehammer in his hand hammered the surface at a storm-like speed. At this moment, it seemed that the entire East Sea coast could hear the sound of his hammer. Gradually, the huge piece of metal was hammered into an even larger rectangular piece of iron. At this moment, Zhu Yan was already drenched in sweat. It had to be known that every time he hammered, he had to inject pure fire mana to maintain the temperature of the alloy and ensure its ductility. After a little rest, Zhu Yan burned the metal piece again with the blazing third fire magic power, then folded it into 2 layers and continued to forge. For a very long period of time, Zhu Yanyao was doing the same thing. Folding, forging, folding, and forging again. Ji-dong was also repeating the same thing, recovering his mana and burning the alloy for Zhu Yan. When he helped Zhu Yan increase the temperature and burn the alloy, Zhu Yan could devote himself to the overlapping of the metal, greatly saving his stamina. Moreover, the metal would soften much faster under the terrifying heat of the ultimate dual flames, greatly increasing the forging speed. Zhu Yan was a 7-crown expert after all. In just 3 days, the two of them had folded the piece of metal 1,000 times. However, Zhu Yan told Ji-dong that this was just the beginning. As the saying goes, 100 folds would become refined, 1,000 folds would become precious, and 10,000 folds would become divine. With so many rare materials, Zhu Yan naturally would not be satisfied with 1,000 folds that he could complete himself. Ji-dong's ultimate dual flames only displayed its true effect at this moment. After 1,000 folds, the alloy had reached a terrifying degree of toughness, and Zhu Yan's ordinary fire could no longer soften it. All the softening work would be done by Ji-dong, and Zhu Yan would devote himself to forging. The folding speed had clearly slowed down. In a day, he could only fold it 100 times at most, and the further he went, the slower the speed became. In 2 whole months, he had only completed a little more than 5,000 fold. At this rate, it would be impossible for Ji-dong to wear this armor in the holy evil battlefield. Zhu Yan had already decided to give up. After all, folding the 5 elements 1,000 times was already a terrifying existence in itself. The alloy itself was strong to an abnormal degree, and it must be known that Fury's equipment was only a treasure that could be folded 1,000 times. Zhu Yan told Ji-dong that he could forge an armor for him first, and then smelt it again after the Holy Tooth battle. However, the effect of the second forging would definitely be a little worse. At this moment it was Ji Dong who became stubborn. He expressed to Zhu Yan that he would rather not wear the armor on the battlefield than waste those materials. He would definitely fold it 10,000 times and forge it into a divine item. Zhu Yan naturally agreed with Ji Dong's method. It must be known that if he were to forge it alone, it would take him at least 30 years to complete 10,000 folds and use his own mana to slowly soften the metal after each fold. While their current speed was not fast, it was not much different from 30 years. Zhu Yan told Ji Dong with great certainty that if the armor was forged successfully, it would not become a god artifact, but it would be extremely close to it. It could even be called a substandard god artifact. Chapter 136. There was only a month and a half left before the demonic Saint Passage opened, and Ji Dong's mana armor was still a long way from completion. However, in the past 2 months, because Ji Dong had been repeating the process of restoring his mana and releasing the ultimate dual flames every day, his mana had increased, and he had finally reached level 48. It must be known that the speed at which he could increase his mana by 1 level was not as fast as before. It was impossible for him to break through to the quintuple champion level before entering the righteous and demonic battlefield. Just as Zhu Yan was in a dilemma, unsure if he should first complete the armor for Ji Dong, or continue to increase the quality of the armor, Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong came together to check on the progress of the forging. After listening to Zhu Yan's complaints, the two supremes immediately decided to replace Ji Dong's position and personally help Zhu Yan complete the remaining number of times the armor could be folded. "Little Dong Dong, help me pass this to Her Majesty the Empress." Although his eyes looked a little tired, Ji Dong could still see the excitement in his eyes. It was obvious that the soaring serpent very much wanted a lotus seed from the flaming bar. Ji Dong sighed in his heart. This was the choice of the flaming bar. Although he was unwilling, he had no other choice. He could only pray in his heart, hoping that the things that the soaring serpent gave the flaming bar would be able to make up for the flaming bar's pain, and it would be best if it was beneficial to her. The soaring serpent could not wait to release his mana to isolate himself from the outside world. With anxiety, nervousness, and unease, Ji Dong called out to the flaming bar. The familiar red lotus unfurled, and a golden lotus seed appeared on one of its petals. This was not the first time that Ji Dong had seen this lotus seed appear, and he could not help but feel a pain in his heart. "Soaring serpent, you and I are even. Remember, do not tell anyone about my relationship with Ji Dong." The voice of the flaming bar did not sound any different from before. It was still as elegant and pleasant as ever, like the music of the heavens rippling in the air. The soaring serpent picked up the lotus seed, its small eyes shining brightly. "Your Majesty, please do not worry. Little Dong Dong is also my friend. If I have any breakthroughs in the future, it will all be thanks to Your Majesty. I thank you here. If Your Majesty has any requests in the future, I will agree." The voice of the flaming bar faintly sounded. "If you really want a breakthrough, then go find the vermilion bird. Only by being with it will you have a chance." The soaring serpent was taken aback, and its eyes changed slightly. "Is there really no other way?" The flaming bar calmly replied. "This is the only way and the only shortcut I know of. The yin and yang heavenly stem divine beasts of the same element will repel each other. Just like the two sovereigns of the core world, there can only be one result when they fight, and that is mutual destruction. The flame tyrant and the dark flame devil king also lost their lives, and their brands fused together in agitation within their bodies. That is all I can say, the decision is up to you." A hint of sincere respect appeared in the soaring serpent's eyes. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will definitely consider your words seriously. Little Dong Dong, I have to leave now. After this farewell, I do not know if we will ever meet again. I will now bid farewell to Zhaorong. Getting to know each other can be considered fate. It is also because of your help that I was able to obtain the help of your majesty. I have a book that I have treasured for a long time to give to you. You possess the 5 elements formation, it should be of some help to you. As she spoke, a blue light flashed, and an ancient-looking book made entirely out of leather landed in Ji Dong's palm. The blue light disappeared, and the soaring serpent disappeared in a flash. The flaming bar smiled. This gift from the soaring serpent is also very precious. Ji Dong, the battle between the saint and demonic saints is imminent. Don't forget what I said to you. I have to continue cultivating. The flaming bar's aura disappeared along with her voice. Ji Dong could not help but feel a sense of loss in his heart once again. However, his gaze was quickly attracted by the book in his hand that was completely made out of leather. The words on the book were not recognizable to Ji Dong. They were a type of ancient script that looked curvy and strange. On the cover of the book there were 4 large words. The entire book was made out of a special brownish-yellow leather. Although he did not know how many years had passed, it did not seem to have been damaged at all. It was as if it had been through the passage of time. The strangest thing was that from this book Ji Dong could actually feel a faint fluctuation of mana. It was different from any kind of attribute, but it was an extremely well-rounded feeling of mana, as if it possessed all 5 elements of yin and yang. Flipping to the first page, Ji Dong's heart immediately trembled. He had actually seen the drawing on the first page before. 10 elemental totems formed a circle, looking extremely lifelike. It was actually exactly the same as the relief sculpture on the stone door that he and Yao Qianshu had almost destroyed in the underground palace. Even the aura was very similar, just much weaker. Beside the totems, there were a large number of ancient text annotations, but he did not know what was written. The next 10 pages each had a type of totem, with a large number of small annotations beside it. He could not understand what was written, but looking at the lifelike totems, Ji Dong could vaguely feel that these words should be related to totems or his own 5 elemental formation. The last 3 pages were also accompanied by some drawings. These drawings seemed to be the production methods of a few items, and seemed to be made out of different kinds of paper. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Ji Dong's mind. Could it be that these papers were used to create magic skill scrolls? The soaring serpent had said before that this book was related to his 5 elemental formation. If the last 3 pages were the production methods of the magic skill scrolls, then the soaring serpent's words would be easy to understand. However, he did not know what was written at the front. Only by understanding the contents and combining it with his own 5 elemental formation would he be able to truly understand the profound mysteries within. Now was not the time to be thinking about this. He was about to head to the saint and evil battlefield, so he would think about it after the battle of the saint and evil ended. Although the ancient text was extremely difficult to distinguish, he believed that with the vast knowledge of his grandmaster, grandmaster's wife, and even the vast knowledge of the flaming bar, they would definitely be able to translate it for him. Returning to the wooden hut by the seaside, Ji Dong was just about to find fury to continue sparring with his magic skill when suddenly, from Zhu Yan's residence not too far away, an intense mana ripple could be felt. Immediately after, he saw an intense gold and black halo rising into the sky like a cloud of smoke. The distorted halo contained an extremely powerful mana ripple, as if it was filled with a spiritual calling. Ji Dong, come quickly. Zhu Yan's voice was filled with urgency as he called out Ji Dong's name. Ji Dong did not dare to tarry. He hurriedly leaped up and rushed to the wooden hut. The 10,000 layers of folding had already been completed a dozen days ago, but the siblings still remained at Zhu Yan's residence to assist him in the final few steps of the forging. The metal that had been folded 10,000 times was no longer something that Zhu Yan could forge with his own ability. He needed the assistance of the ultimate dual flames to temporarily soften it. As soon as he entered the wooden hut, the first thing that Ji Dong felt was a wave of heat assaulting his face. Within the wooden hut, Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong were slowly withdrawing their ultimate dual flames. Zhu Yan stood there drenched in sweat, his expression as ugly as a sheet of paper. On the ground between the three of them was a complete set of armor that formed a conical shape, and its original appearance could not be seen clearly. Ji Dong did not ask what kind of armor Zhu Yan would forge for him. Now, his gaze was immediately attracted by the armor before him as soon as he entered. Because it was fused together, he could only see a conical object and not its appearance. What attracted Ji Dong's attention was the material of the armor itself. The dark red body did not seem conspicuous, and Ji Dong could faintly see a layer of extremely fine cloud patterns on the dark red metal with his powerful eyesight. The cloud patterns exuded a firm, tough, domineering, and sonorous aura, filled with a strong sense of superiority. The most peculiar thing was that the armor was constantly trembling, and the golden and black smoke that Ji Dong saw earlier was actually seeping out from its body. As soon as Zhu Yan saw Ji Dong, he did not say a word and rushed forward, immediately pulling her to the armor. "Quick, there's only one last step left. It needs to be soaked in your blood. I didn't think that I would actually create a magical weapon that has spirituality and needs to recognize its master. This is definitely the best work I've made in my life." Even though he was already very tired, his eyes were filled with fervor and excitement. 3 months. He had used a whole 3 months, and with the help of Ji Dong and 2 other sovereigns, he had finally forged this armor with spirituality. Ji Dong did not quite understand what a magical weapon with spirituality was, but in truth, the most basic requirements for a so-called divine weapon were spirituality and the ability to recognize its master. Just as Zhu Yan had judged, the armor he had forged, with the advantage of the materials, the ultimate dual flames and 10,000 folds, as well as the soaking and forging without regard for the cost, was already extremely close to a divine weapon. "Brother, hurry up and water it with your blood. Only then can it complete the process of recognizing its master. Otherwise, it will lose all its spiritual energy before it can even take shape and become an ordinary weapon." Hearing Zhu Yan's urgent voice, Ji Dong did not dare to be negligent. Towards Zhu Yan, he had a feeling of gratitude and admiration. Perhaps in the eyes of others, Zhu Yan looked like a crazy old man, but Ji Dong knew very well that Zhu Yan was just like him in his previous life, who was obsessed with bartending, wholeheartedly devoted himself to the research of magical weapon forging. He did not care about the matters of the outside world at all, which was why he had such a slovenly appearance. However, this dedication had already filled Ji Dong with a good impression. They were the same kind of people, which was why when Zhu Yan had forcibly acknowledged him as his kin, Ji Dong did not oppose it as he got to know him better. Now, he was even more grateful. In order to help him forge this armor, Zhu Yan, who was over 100 years old, had worked so hard over the past few months. Even with the support of the magical energy of the 7 crowns, he seemed even older. All of this was for him, so how could he not be moved? His hands swept past each other, and a dazzling light flashed. Ji Dong suppressed his ultimate dual fire attribute with all his strength, channeling power into his fingernails, and sliced through the veins on both hands. This time, he used a lot of strength. It must be known that he had the vermilion bird inner armor under his skin. Even if he forcibly controlled the vermilion bird inner armor to not be activated due to an attack, the toughness of his skin was far from that of an ordinary person. Under Ji Dong's deliberate control, 2 streams of blood immediately spurted out from the wounds, and landed on the armor that was still burning hot. Immediately, the armor stopped trembling violently, and its body flickered with a faint light. When it was bright, it turned gold, and when it was dim, it turned black. Its aura changed, and it was the mana undulations of the ultimate dual fire. If it had been an ordinary person, even the blood of a fire-type demon master would not have been able to satisfy this armor. At this moment it was not just going through the process of recognizing its master, but also the process of condensing its own spirituality and completing the final step of forging. Furthermore, Ji-dong's blood was filled with the aura of the two great ultimate fires, as well as the existence of the chaotic fire, the most fundamental power of creation in the world. The instant the blood fused into the armor immediately greedily absorbed it, and did not leave a single trace behind. The trembling stopped, but the number of times the light flickered became more and more rapid, as if it was expressing its own excitement. Ji-dong forcefully channeled his own mana to prevent the wounds from healing, and blood continued to spurt out. Due to the vermilion bird transformation and the winged serpent transformation, his body was not only extremely tough, but the various functions of his body were also far superior to that of an ordinary person. As his blood flowed out, his body's hematopoietic function began to rapidly circulate. As long as he did not lose too much blood, there would not be any problems with his body. Chapter 137. Strong pulses of mana circulated in the air, carrying a faint smell of blood. Zhu Yan's fists had already turned white from clenching them so tightly that Yin Zhaoyang's gaze remained calm, but he was also paying close attention to the changes in the armor. Only Yin Zhaorong's expression carried a hint of sorrow and disappointment. The flying serpent had already come to bid farewell to her. She obviously could not stop her companion of several decades from pursuing the existence of another realm. However, how could she so easily let go of the departure of her friend and teacher? The light of the mana armor shone more and more intensely. Gradually, the black and gold became indistinguishable, and Ji-dong's complexion began to change as his body began to weaken. At this moment there was a sudden clang. The entire wooden hut was filled with surging mana. The powerful mana exploded, causing everyone to feel a scorching heat. However, the four people present were all experts of the fire element, so they obviously did not care about the change in temperature. Yin Zhaoyang waved his hand and set up a fire boundary around the wooden hut, preventing it from being destroyed like when Ji-dong broke through to the fourth crown. "Brother, that's enough!" Zhu Yan cried out in ecstasy. Ji-dong immediately withdrew the mana that was controlling his wounds, and the two wounds on his wrists began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, they had already turned into two white lines, and large amounts of milky white light seemed to be surging towards the wounds under his skin. However, no one paid any attention to the changes in Ji-dong's wounds, because the armor that had been piled together on the ground had already undergone a huge change. The shining gold and black armor had already exploded with a clang, turning into pieces that scattered through the air and hovering in front of Ji-dong. The light no longer flickered. Every part of the armor floated peacefully in the air. The armor itself was gold, but the background had turned black, as if a strong black air current was condensing. The clanging of metal constantly echoed. As he stared at it, Ji-dong could not help but feel a sense of kinship with it, as if the armor itself was a part of his body. Moreover, he had also noticed that the armor was not a full-body armor like Zhu Yan had said, but a light armor. The armor was made up of many parts, including a mask, two pauldrons, front and back breastplates, waistplate, pleated skirt, knee pads, combat boots, elbow pads, wrist pads, and gauntlet. Among these parts, only the front and back breastplates, the gauntlets were connected, while the rest only protected the most important parts of the body. What attracted Ji-dong's attention the most was the mask that floated at the top. The mask was very large. Not only could it completely cover the face, but it also protruded from all sides. Overall, it looked ferocious. A total of 10 spikes protruded from the edges of the mask. The golden mask looked a little like the sun, but the spikes were not straight. Instead, they were twisted like the body of a flying serpent. Even where the eyes were, there was a layer of dark red membrane protecting them. Among all the parts of the armor, the spiritual aura that the mask gave off was the strongest. The reason why it could attract Ji-dong's attention was not just because of that. More importantly, among all the parts of the armor, only the mask was filled with the same arrogance as Ji Dong, the arrogance that came from the fusion of Ji Dong and the two sovereigns. Two beams of light shot out from Ji Dong's eyes, staring at the eyes of the mask. At this moment, he released all his arrogance without hiding it. The intense aura of the dual flames burst out, and the arrogance of the sovereigns filled the wooden house like a towering mountain. As if they understood Ji Dong's summon, the clanging sounds of the armor stopped. In the next moment they had already turned into beams of golden light, but with a black tail flame, they shot toward Hyoheim like lightning. Raising his arms to his sides, Ji Dong only felt his face heat up. Everything in front of him had turned into the color of blood, but it was exceptionally clear. Even the dust in the darkest corner could be seen clearly. The boiling heat bloomed on his face. He could clearly feel that the magic in his body had instantly merged with the aura contained in the mask. There was no card slot or hairband on the mask. It was so perfect that it would not fall off his face. Then, accompanied by a series of clanging sounds, the armor sets attached themselves to Ji Dong's body. With each additional set, Ji Dong felt that the magic in his body became more turbulent. When all the sets were on him, the feeling of being in perfect harmony made him feel like his whole body was filled with blazing magic waves, and he had a feeling that he wanted to attack with all his might. The speed of the yin-yang vortex's rotation increased a little on its own, and the speed at which it absorbed magic from the outside world was obviously increasing. When his magic was injected into the armor would turn black if it was injected with extreme yin fire, and the armor would turn golden if it was injected with extreme yang fire. When no magic was injected, the armor would automatically return to its inconspicuous dark red color. Although the armor covered almost all of his joints, it did not make him feel sluggish at all. Although the weight of the armor itself was not light, it felt like a piece of clothing at most. The power it brought to Ji Dong far exceeded the burden of its weight. Looking at Ji Dong's body covered in armor, Zhu Yan said, as if he was talking in a dream, "After folding it 10,000 times, I realized that these metals were not enough to make a full set of armor. In desperation, I could only design it into a light armor that only protects the most important parts of the body. Ordinary light armor needs to be connected with leather, but you don't need that at all, because you have the protection of the vermilion bird inner armor. I designed this armor to be both offensive and defensive. On the surface, it doesn't seem to have any crystal cores or crystal crowns embedded in it, but in fact, in order to complete the casting, when it was folded for the last time, I used a total of 6 grades. I crushed over 100 crystal cores into powder and used a 10th grade fire crystal core and a 10th grade fire crystal core as the core to completely brand the magic of these crystal cores into the armor. I don't know the 5 elements array, so I can only use this method to stimulate and stabilize the magic attribute of the armor. As long as you wear it, your magic recovery speed will increase by 50%. There is no need to doubt its offensive and defensive power. When you pour more than 3 crowns of magic into it, its true appearance will be completely revealed. Not only can it help you defend, it will also become your most powerful weapon." At this point, Zhu Yan paused for a moment and panted a few times before continuing. As for the mask, it was made after careful consideration. In the holy evil battlefield, not only can you face the attacks of your enemies, you can also encounter the sneak attacks of the students of the Heavenly STEM Academy. With this mask, no one will know who you are. With it, you will always be mysterious. Moreover, this mask can keep you awake at all times and protect your face. The crystal membrane on the pupil is made of a kind of cornea called night dragon. No matter what kind of light it is, you can see clearly. The only flaw is that when you wear it, you can only see red. Brother, I will gradually help you perfect this armor in the future and make it a true full-body armor. Right now, I can be sure that this armor that possesses spirituality is already a substandard god artifact. If you can complete the full-body armor and inscribe the 5 elements formation on it, it won't be impossible for it to become a true God artifact. However, this will have to be done step by step, so you must work hard to comprehend the 5 elements formation. Wearing the armor and the mask, Ji Dong's arrogance was even more perfect. The cold metal and blood-red eyes were deep and cold. Vaguely, one could smell the scent of blood from him. Ji Dong nodded and said, "Big brother, this armor was made by you, so why don't you give it a name?" Zhu Yan laughed heartily. "Good. The battle between you and Fury last time could be said to be soul-stirring, and it gave me many thoughts. When you released the extreme yang flames, you were like a ruthless monarch, and when your demonic energy was converted into the extreme yin flames, you were like a deep demon king. Coupled with your extreme yin and yang attributes, why don't we call this armor the Demon Monarch Yin Yang armor?" Demon Monarch Yin Yang armor. Ji Dong repeated Zhu Yan's words. He could clearly feel that the armor seemed to be transmitting an aura of excitement to him. Clearly it liked this name. Tyrant Demon King. Ji Dong didn't really care about these titles, but he had inherited the skills of the Flame Sovereign King and the Dark Flame Devil King, so the words Demon Monarch and Demon Monarch came from the 2 great monarchs. "Good, we'll call it the Demon Monarch Yin Yang armor." Along with Ji Dong's affirmative answer, there was a humming sound, and the armor on his body shone brightly. Black and gold alternated for a moment. Vaguely, the cloud patterns on the various parts of the armor flowed with light. This substandard god artifact had finally been given its name. Zhu Yan smiled. His body swayed, and he slowly collapsed. Yin Zhaoyang strode to his side and grabbed his shoulder. Faint golden light flowed from his palm into Zhu Yan's body. Before Ji Dong died, he saw that Zhu Sui's eyes were tightly closed, but the smile on his face didn't diminish. Yin Zhaoyang and Hyoheim waved their hands and said, "He's just too tired. He'll be fine after some rest. The armor is forged. Go pack your things and set off with Fury. It's not the first time he's participated in the Battle of Saint Evil, so he'll naturally bring you there." Yin Zhaoyang had already told him that he needed to be warned, so he didn't say anything else. Ji Dong bid farewell to Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong, the 2 great Supreme Being experts, and walked out of the wooden house. He prepared to take off the Jun Mo Yin Yang armor, as he couldn't wear this armor and hurry on his journey. Just as his thoughts moved, his right wrist became slightly warm, as if it had sensed his thoughts. His entire body became light, and all the armor had already left his body, turning into streams of light that flowed into the vermilion bird bracelet that Ji Dong's thoughts had been stored in. Looking at the vermilion bird bracelet that was flowing with a golden red light, Ji Dong couldn't help but be stunned for a second. As expected of a substandard god artifact, it had really reached a telepathic connection with him. He didn't know what level a divine artifact magic weapon could reach. "What a good armor. Junior brother, I'm jealous." Just as Ji Dong was in a daze, Fury's voice rang out. The Thunder Emperor's tall figure had already covered the sunlight and arrived before Ji Dong. How could Fury not have seen such a huge commotion earlier? However, he was afraid of affecting Zhu Yan's forging, so he didn't go in. Naturally, he saw Ji Dong taking off his armor. Fury didn't hide his envy at all. He lowered his head and moved closer to Ji Dong, saying, "What a pity, what a pity." Ji Dong found it funny and asked, "Senior brother, what's a pity?" Fury sighed, "It's a pity that our attributes are different. Otherwise, I'd definitely snatch your armor to exchange. If I'm not wrong, this light armor of yours should be the pinnacle of my Uncle Master's work. It's hard to say if it can surpass it in the future." Ji Dong chuckled and said, "I believe that Big Brother will definitely be able to make another breakthrough in the future. With his dedication to forging, there will be a day when a divine weapon will be born in his hand." Fury said helplessly, "I call him Uncle Master, and you call him Big Brother. This is really awkward." Ji Dong said, "Grandmaster told us to set off now. It should be about time." Fury nodded and said, "I was just about to look for Grandmaster as well. It's about time. we have to arrive a little earlier. Only by moving together with the heavenly stem army will we be able to enter the holy demonic battlefield. We can't possibly sneak in. With the deterrence of Grandmaster and Mistress, I don't think the Heavenly STEM Academy will dare to make things difficult for us. After all, the holy demonic battle concerns the safety of the entire continent. Even if they want to play any tricks, they will have to wait until we finish the holy demonic battle and come out. Ji Dong nodded and said, "Then let's set off now." Fury nodded and said, "All right, I will bid farewell to Grandmaster and Mistress. Let's set off now. With the lightning, it won't take long for us to arrive." After a quarter of an hour, the purple thunder heavenly dragon, which seemed to have grown a bit larger, soared into the sky and brought the two young experts with it. Astral winds blew. This time, Ji Dong sat behind Fury. Fury himself was completely in sync with the dragon saddle on the back of the purple thunder heavenly dragon. Although he wasn't wearing any armor, sitting on the back of the purple thunder heavenly dragon gave off an invisible domineering aura. Ji Dong was very clear that if Fury and the purple thunder heavenly dragon were to fight in the battle that day, he would not be able to withstand a single blow. The holy demonic island was located in the east of the East Sea. If one wanted to reach it, they would have to depart from the holy demonic passage somewhere in the East Sea. Without a doubt, the entrance of the holy demonic passage was the most heavily guarded place in the entire radiant continent. It was impossible to even get close to it. Ordinary people would not know of the existence of the holy demonic passage. They would not know that there was another continent outside of this continent that could be invaded at any time. Chapter 138. The purple thunder was flying in the sky. It was impossible to see it from the ground. Although the East Sea was vast, Yin Chaoyang was responsible for guarding the holy and evil passage. Naturally, he wouldn't live too far away from the holy and evil passage. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to vaguely see the continent in the distance. Along with Fury's increase in strength, the purple thunder heavenly dragon's mana also seemed to have increased. Although it still wasn't at the Tier 9 level, its flying speed was a lot faster. Fury sat on the back of the purple thunder heavenly dragon, his broad and tall figure completely shielding Ji Dong's body. Even without the protection of the purple thunder heavenly dragon's mana, the astral winds wouldn't be able to hit him. "Junior brother, we're almost there. I think the people from the Heavenly STEM Academy are already here. When you see them later, you don't need to say anything. I'll handle everything." "Okay." Ji Dong closed his eyes, feeling the changes in the magic elements in the sky. He was very interested in the holy evil battlefield, but what made his heart even more excited was that after the holy evil battle was over, Raging Flame would come out of seclusion, and he would be able to see her every day. Thinking of this, his heart was filled with excitement. The clouds under his feet began to hit his body. The purple thunder heavenly dragon began to descend. Ji Dong was a little surprised. "So fast?" Fury smiled and said, "How far do you think it can be?" At this moment, the purple thunder heavenly dragon passed through the clouds. Fury raised his hand and pointed down. Looking down at the sea from the sky, especially from this place, one couldn't help but feel a strong shock. It was the majesty of the world. The first thing that came into view was not the holy and evil passage or the holy and evil island, but the overwhelming dark clouds and flashing lightning in the distance. You could even see a huge tornado raging in the distance. The raging waves in the sea were hundreds of meters high. The majestic momentum was like the anger of nature. Fury said, "In other parts of the East Sea, the main obstacles are the powerful demonic sea beasts in the sea. Only when you go deep into the sea will you encounter natural changes. Only here is different. There is the most terrifying force of nature here. This terrifying sea is called the myriad lightning calamity boundary. It refers to the tribulation formed by millions of lightning bolts, a terrifying barrier that is like hell. Even if a Type 9 powerhouse were to enter it, he would not be able to escape the fate of being destroyed in a short time. Jidong said, Shixiang, what about you? You're a lightning attribute devil master, and with your purple thunder heavenly dragon, can you go deep? Fury chuckled and said, That's hard to say. However, even if I want to try, I'll have to wait until I've advanced to 9 crowns and my lightning has evolved to level 10. This world of infinite lightning calamity doesn't only have yang lightning, but also a large amount of yin lightning, hurricanes, and tornadoes. It's not that easy to break through. If you're interested, we can wait until we've all broken through 9 crowns, then we can try it. Jidong said, Shixiang, how come I don't see the holy and demonic passage? After paying attention to the weather in the sea, his eyes fell on the nearby sea. But to his surprise, there were no islands or passages on the sea, only undulating waves. Fury said, The holy and demonic passage only opens once every 5 years. It's not time yet. It's not something you can see easily. You'll understand when the time comes. Not on the sea? This sentence made Jidong curious. His eyes moved from the sea to the land. This time, he saw an endless number of tents. The different colors of the tents represented the different empires. Among them, the green and yellow tents were the most numerous. Clearly, the Eastern Wood Empire and the Central Plains Empire had the most troops stationed there. These tents were stationed by the seaside. Putting everything else aside, just the daily consumption of food was an astronomical figure. Only the 5 empires could maintain a permanent garrison here all year round. It was also because of the huge threat from outside the East Sea that the 5 Elements continent had been able to maintain peace for many years. From this point of view, the existence of the Dark 5 Elements continent was not necessarily a bad thing. After all, for so many years, the people on the continent had been enjoying a peaceful and happy life. In the inner circle of the camps of the 5 empires, there was a separate camp. This camp was completely made up of golden tents. Compared to the armies on the periphery, there were far fewer tents. However, it gave off a feeling of being surrounded by stars. Fury followed Jidong's gaze and said, See that? That golden tent is the place where the Heavenly Dry Academy is stationed. Every year, there will be students who have completed the 5-year garrison mission leaving here. There will also be a new batch coming here. After years of accumulation, the total number of Heavenly Dry Academy students guarding the border has always been maintained at around 1,500 people. At one time, there were more than 2,000 people. Their average cultivation level is higher than 4 crowns. Although there are many powerful magic masters in the 5 Empires Coalition, there is no doubt that the magic masters of the Heavenly Dry Academy are the real core. At this point, Fury laughed somewhat self-deprecatingly and said, I forgot that I am no longer a person of the Heavenly Dry Academy. Back then, when I first participated in the Battle of the Holy Evil, I also stayed here for 5 years. Junior brother, do you know that actually staying here for 5 years is even better than training in the academy? Because life here is extremely boring, and it is impossible to leave. What else can you do besides training? With the guidance and help of so many seniors, by the time every student of the Heavenly Dry Academy leaves here, their magic power has already broken through to 4 crowns or close to 5 crowns. If it is a disciple of the Yin-Yang school, by the time they leave here, there is no one who hasn't broken through to 5 crowns. Therefore, although this place is the border defense line, it is also the cradle of our 5 Elements continent's high-level magic masters. The accumulation of 1,000 years has created a phenomenon. Now, most of the nobles on the continent are magic masters, and many of them are high-level magic masters. This is because they or their ancestors were once stationed here. Jidong frowned and said, The nobles are powerful, the unlucky ones are the commoners. Fury looked at him in surprise and said, You've noticed this too? Right now, our continent is far from being as peaceful as it looks on the surface. The conflict between the nobles and the commoners is becoming more and more intense. It is only because the difference in strength is too great that it has not shown itself. For the sake of the continent's peace, the battle of the holy evil cannot be lost. Otherwise, if the dark people of the five elements continent invade our land, I am afraid that there will be internal disintegration. A strange expression appeared on Ji Dong's face. For the sake of the continent's peace? Senior brother, what you are saying should be for the sake of the noble's peace, right? Fury was stunned for a moment. I understand what you mean, but you also know that this is not something that you and I can change. The problems that have accumulated for 1,000 years have long been deeply rooted. The only thing we can do is to do our best to maintain it. Ji Dong smiled indifferently and said, if the chronic problems are not cured, they will only sink deeper and deeper. When there is no cure, I am afraid that the entire continent will be overturned. At that time, I am afraid that it will be out of control. Perhaps in a few decades, or maybe a few centuries, if this continues, it will happen one day. Fury was silent for a moment, but did not continue Ji Dong's words. He pointed below and said, they have discovered us. As expected, in the large tent below, several black figures rose into the air, and in the blink of an eye, they had already risen into the air. There were a total of 3 figures, faintly surrounding the purple thunder brilliant heavenly dragon in the center. They all released their own demonic energy. Impressively, they were 3 6-crown heaven soldier powerhouses, and they all had flying-type magical beast companions. The 3 of them looked to be around 40 years old. They were respectively Yang Water Element, Yin Earth Element, and Yang Wood Element. However, their mounts were not as imposing as Fury's dragons. They were all rank 6 bird-type magical beasts, and they were also wearing armor. Even though their auras were much weaker than Fury's, they were still 6-crown heaven scholars. Adding on their flying magical beasts, they could be considered extraordinary figures on the continent. Fury proudly sat on the back of the purple thunder brilliant sky dragon and said to the 6-crown heaven scholar in front of him, Senior Brotherly, after not seeing you for 5 years, you are still as elegant as ever. The 9 water scholar sneered and said, I do not dare to be called Senior Brother by the Thunder Emperor. I heard that you have already decided to leave the Yin-Yang Hall. Why are you here? The relationship between the water and fire elements had never been reconciled, especially the Yang water and Yang fire element. Fury's eyes narrowed and said, Li Yexin, if you want to die, I don't mind fulfilling your wish. Even the dean would not use the word betrayal on me. Who do you think you are? The Thunder Emperor would only be amiable in front of his teacher and his junior brother Ji Dong. Only when facing outsiders would he show his true colors. The 9 water scholar Li Yexin coldly snorted and said, Fury, do you think we are afraid of you? Look carefully, we have all broken through the 6-crown heaven scholars, and we also have magical beast mounts to help us. This is the location of the holy and evil passage. You should know that the 5 great empires have jointly banned anyone who comes here to cause trouble. Kill without mercy. It was obvious that this guy had an old grudge with Fury. At this time, he was relying on the advantage of numbers and could be considered unyielding. Fury sneered and said, With just the 3 of you? Blinding lightning soared up like an explosion, and a white sun crown suddenly appeared above his head. The 7 lightning marks on the crown shone brightly, and the aura of the Thunder Emperor instantly fused with the purple thunder heavenly dragon beneath him. A terrifying pressure that was close to the myriad thunder calamity realm suddenly erupted. In terms of compatibility with his magical beast companion, very few people could compare with Fury. This was because his totem was created by himself, which was also his purple thunder heaven dragon. 1 man and 1 dragon had long since become one. Moreover, with his 7-crown cultivation and the purple thunder heaven dragon of the 8th step, his aura was completely released and immediately created an extremely terrifying scene. The entire sky darkened in an instant. In almost the blink of an eye, large patches of dark clouds had already condensed in the sky. The surging thunder and lightning frantically swept away the other elements. The air was filled with a manic aura. The heavy aura that was like a mountain pressing down on them caused the three heaven scholars to turn pale with fright. The magical beast under them retreated uneasily, especially the Yang-wood attribute magical beast. Its body was constantly trembling. 7 crown, you broke through the 7 crown? 9 water scholarly Yeshin said in shock. Fury said coldly, come at me. Let me see how much you've improved in these 5 years. If you can take 3 of my moves, it'll be your win. I'll let you deal with me as you wish. Li Yeshin swallowed a mouthful of saliva. If Fury was still at the level of 6 crowns, with their 3 6 crowns heaven scholars and the strength of the 3 magical beasts, they would have a fighting chance. However, what appeared in front of them was the 7 crowns Thunder Emperor. The difference of 1 crown could be said to be like the difference between heaven and earth. Although their expressions were cold and stern, they were already showing signs of weakness on the inside. Stop! A shout rang out from below. Although the purple thunder heaven dragon was already flying very low, it was still more than 500 meters above the ground. To be able to transmit the voice from the ground into the sky without dissipating, it could be seen the strength of the owner of the voice. With a flash of silver light, Ji Dong, who was sitting behind Fury, did not even have time to see who it was before another person appeared in front of Fury. The newcomer was tall, at most half a head shorter than Fury, and he looked to be in his 50s or 60s. His mount was a silver dragon that was only about 7 meters long, and he wore a silver full body armor. He had a square face, a beard, and an intimidating look on his face. What are you all doing? All of you, get down. The silver dragon knight shouted coldly at the 3 heaven scholars. Li Yeshin secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was unwilling, he still hurriedly retracted his wings and descended with his 2 companions. Seeing them leave, the silver dragon knight turned to Fury, laughed and said, Fury, you stinking brat, you've just arrived and you want to show off your strength? Fury indifferently smiled and said, Brother Su, it's not me who wants to show off my strength, it's them who wants to show off their strength. The silver dragon knight who was called Brother Su laughed and said, all right, let's not talk about this, let's go down and talk. The holy and evil passage is about to open, we were all patrolling just now, otherwise those brats wouldn't have a chance to come up. You brat, in these 5 years you haven't come back to visit your brothers, I don't believe in their words of betrayal. If anyone dares to say any more nonsense, I will cripple them first. Hearing Brother Su's words, Fury's expression softened a bit and said, Brother, I thought that even you didn't respect me as a brother. Brother Su snappily said, You brat, don't think that I can't beat you up just because you've won 7 championships. Hurry up and come down with us here, even if the dean orders to arrest you, he will have to think twice. Who is the one who risked his life on the holy and evil battlefield? Let's not talk about anything else, let's have a good drink tonight. Fury laughed and said, All right, in terms of strength, I'm not as good as the other brothers, but in terms of drinking, the 5 of you come together, us 2 brothers will take care of it. Chapter 139. Senior brother Su glanced at Ji Dong, who was behind Fury, and said, Fury, is this the junior brother who almost caused a battle between Supremes? Tell me the truth, the purpose of your visit this time is… Fury's expression froze as he said, This is my little junior brother, Ji Dong. Senior brother, don't you know my temper? We only have one goal, and that is to kill the enemy. Any power struggle has nothing to do with us. Who says I'm a traitor? Fine. Let him come and have a match with me. All of us brothers will accept it. Senior brother Su nodded his head and said, Your words are more than enough. Whoever dares to obstruct you from entering the Saint Evil battlefield will be making life difficult for us. Let's go, let's head down first. As he spoke, the silver dragon beneath him extended its body, and with a slight flap of its wings, it disappeared like a silver meteor. Junior brother, this person is a good friend of mine. His name is Su Yonglong. 5 years ago, he was already a 7-crown heavenly master, and is one of the deputy commanders in our Heavenly Stems Legion. His nickname is Cloud Dragon, and although his silver dragon is the smallest of the dragon race, only having the strength of the 7th order, it is the fastest. Before he was 50 years old, in the Holy Evil battlefield, he was the most troublesome opponent, and would often ambush the enemy in places where they would not appear. He is an absolute veteran here, and has been guarding this place for dozens of years. Together with the other 3 deputy commanders, the commander, and me, we form the 6 Radiant Dragons. I also have another nickname, Thunder Dragon. The 6 of us are all dragon riders, and all 5 of us have the word dragon in our names. It's a pity that we don't belong to the 5 elements, or else we would be even more powerful together. Even so, they are the backbone of this place, and even the directors of the academy have to give them some respect. After all, they have spent half of their lives here, and in terms of titles, the 5 of them are the Grand Dukes of their respective countries. As he spoke, the purple thunder brilliant heavenly dragon retracted its wings and landed on the ground. It stopped right in front of the golden tents of the Heavenly Stems Legion. The dark clouds in the sky also disappeared as Fury withdrew his aura, restoring the calm and tranquil scene. Su Yonglong had been waiting there for a long time. His silver dragon had also disappeared, and there were 3 other people waiting there as well. They all looked to be in their 50s or 60s. Although they all looked different, they all had their own unique temperament. Their eyes were deep and unfathomable. Without a doubt, they all had extremely powerful strength. Fury pulled Ji Dong down from the back of the purple thunder brilliant heavenly dragon and quickly took a few steps forward. He saluted the other 3 middle-aged men and said, "Fury greets senior brothers, why are you all here?" On the far left was a middle-aged man with a tall figure and a simple appearance. He had short hair and seemed to be extremely spirited. He chuckled and said, "How could we not know that you caused such a commotion in the sky? First, introduce us to this little brother." Fury nodded and said to the 4 people in front of him, "This is my little junior brother. He should also be Master's last disciple. His name is Ji Dong." Ji Dong nodded slightly as a form of greeting, but he did not speak. Fury said, "These 4 senior brothers are the deputy commanders of the Heavenly Stems Legion. They are also great contributors in guarding the border. Senior brother Su Yonglong, nicknamed Cloud Dragon, is known for his speed. I have already introduced him to you. This is senior brother Du Quanglong, nicknamed Lion Dragon. He is of the 1st wood element." Fury introduced the middle-aged man who had just spoken. Ji Dong fixed his eyes on him. This middle-aged man looked ordinary and gave off a gentle and refined temperament. Su Yonglong chuckled and said, "He's a freak. Don't be fooled by his appearance. When this guy fights, he's like a madman. That's why we call him a beast most of the time." Du Quanglong said angrily, "Old Su, are you not convinced? If you are not convinced, let's fight." Su Yonglong snorted and said, "Let's talk if you can catch up with me." Fury laughed and said, "Senior brother Du Quanglong is known as the king of attack. When he attacks, he doesn't look like a 1st wood element magician at all. I have always thought that he should be of our 3rd fire element." "Fury, you are not being nice. Why don't you introduce him quickly?" Another middle-aged man standing next to Du Quanglong suddenly said something that made Ji Dong stunned. This person's voice was a bit sharper than a woman's. Especially when he spoke, he deliberately pinched his thumb and middle finger. It looked like he was acting coquettishly. The 2 people standing next to him took a step forward and acted as if they did not know him. Su Yonglong even slapped his forehead with his hand, as if he could not bear it. Fury's facial muscles also moved a little and said, "Little junior brother, this is senior brother Jin Zilong, nicknamed Golden Dragon. He is of the metal element and is known for his ever-changing magic skills and extreme attacks. Frankly speaking, if one only looked at Jin Zilong, They really could not find any fault with him. His appearance was also the most handsome one among them. His skin was slightly white, his eyebrows were arched, and his eyes were like phoenixes. He also had a head of elegant long golden hair. However, when he opened his mouth and acted, no matter how handsome his face was, it was destroyed by the atmosphere. It was really difficult to accept. Jean Zilong looked at the crowd with dissatisfaction and showed a sad look on his face. He said, "I don't want to be like this, but I am born with 99 in metal element. The in chi is too heavy, and I can't do anything about it. Oh little brother, your skin is really good." Listening to the first part of Jean Zilong's words, Ji Dong was shocked. 99 in metal element, this could be said to be the existence of the extreme element. This alone was enough to show that this sissy of the 6 glorious dragons had extraordinary strength. However, when Jean Zilong said the last sentence, he really could not stand it anymore. His face turned pale, and he quickly turned his head away. "Ahem, let me introduce myself. Zilong, be quiet for a while." The last middle-aged man was much more normal. He was tall, not inferior to Fury, with a head of fiery red short hair. He looked somewhat similar to Ji Dong's good brother, Kar, but more burly. "My name is Jean Zilong, nicknamed Fire Dragon. I am of the 3rd fire element. I used to study under Master Zhurong, but I was only a registered disciple. In other words, I am also your real senior brother. Of course, among us, my strength is the weakest, not worth mentioning." Fury laughed heartily and said, "Senior brother Jean, you're mocking me, right? If I remember correctly, you already had 7 crowns 5 years ago. It's not your turn to be the worst." Jean Zilong said very seriously, "No, my comprehensive strength is definitely not as good as yours. My fire dragon's rank is low, not as good as your purple thunder heavenly dragon." Fury said, "Senior brother Jean, you are still so serious." Jean Zilong said impatiently, "Zilong is like this. If I am not serious, the reputation of the 6 glorious dragons will be ruined." Fury Hyoheim said, "Oh, by the way, senior brother Jean Zilong and senior brother Jean Zilong are blood brothers. Senior brother Jean Zilong is the elder brother." "Blood brothers?" Ji Dong couldn't help but open his mouth in surprise. No matter how he looked at it, he couldn't see any similarities between these 2 so-called brothers. Jean Zilong opened his mouth again and said, "I look like my mother, and Gu Long looks like my father. We also have our parents' attributes, so our appearances are a little different. Little brother, your skin is really good, I'm so envious." Resisting the desire to vomit, Ji Dong subconsciously took a step back. Yun Long and Shi Long next to him couldn't help but burst into laughter. Fury shook his head helplessly and said, "Senior brother Zilong, please spare my little brother. He is going to enter the holy evil battlefield with me." The 4 dragons in front of him were stunned at the same time. Du Quanglong said in a deep voice, "Fury, we have heard about what happened to you. The 300 candidates to enter the holy evil island have also been determined. The leader is Yi Xian. Although I don't know how Ji Dong could kill Ji Feng, don't forget that Ji Feng is the only heir of the imperial family of the Central Empire. This hatred is as deep as the sea. Outside there are 2 supreme seniors, so no one dares to do anything to him. But who can say anything in the holy evil battlefield? Don't forget that once you enter the holy evil battlefield, you will be separated. You have been there twice, so you naturally know the danger of the holy evil battlefield. Do the 2 supreme seniors know about this?" Fury smiled and said, "Without the permission of the Grandmaster, how dare I bring my little brother here? Senior brothers, please rest assured. Now in the Heavenly STEM Academy, even in the Yin Yang Hall, I am afraid no one can defeat my little brother." Jean Zilong said in disbelief, "Fury, how old is your little brother this year?" Fury looked at Ji Dong. Ji Dong said, 16 years old. Jean Zilong wanted to say something, but Su Yonglong said, "Old Jean, don't ask too much. Since it is the decision of His Majesty, is there a need for us to question it? Fury, don't worry about this matter. With our support, although there are Director Shui and First Wood Department's Director Dong, they can't stop you from entering the holy evil battlefield. The overall situation is the most important. That girl Yi Xian has improved a lot in recent years, but compared to you, she is still far behind. Hearing the name Yi Xian, Fury's face clearly became indifferent. A strange light flashed in his eyes. Although it was only for a moment, but Ji Dong, who was beside him, still noticed it. Fury laughed and said, "Then I'll leave the matter of entering the Saint Evil battlefield to you senior brothers. There should be 7 to 8 days left. No matter what, we must call Senior Brother Song over tonight. We won't leave until we're drunk." Su Yonglong laughed and said, "Even if you want to run, you can't. I heard that you have just been promoted to a 9-star bartender, and you are already at the level of the god of wine." Fury smiled and said, "So Senior Brother Su has always been thinking about my wine. This is easy." As he said that, he winked at Hyoheim. However, no matter how he tried to hide it, Ji Dong clearly remembered the flash of sadness in Fury's eyes. Ji Dong and Fury were arranged to stay in a golden tent. It was still early, so after arranging their accommodations, the 4 dragon riders went to do their own things. The holy and evil passage was about to open, and this was the busiest time for them every 5 years. "Senior brother," Ji Dong called out to Fury. Fury lay on the bed and turned his head. The golden tent had all kinds of daily necessities, and they were all the best in the world. Ji Dong sat on the bed and said, "Are you thinking about senior sister Yi Xian?" Fury's eyes turned cold and said, "Why would I think about her? That fickle woman." Ji Dong said, "Senior brother, you don't have to hide anything between us brothers. I can see that you still have feelings for senior sister Yi Xian, it's just that you don't want to admit it. Last time at the ball, I understood that sometimes you have to see through the surface to see the essence. Don't jump to conclusions too early, and don't be blinded by your own stubbornness. Don't be fooled by his effeminate appearance. Senior brother Jin Zilong's control of demonic power has even been greatly praised by the Grandmaster. He has already reached the pinnacle, and will never use any more or less demonic power. He is also the other powerhouse who has achieved the power of 8 crowns, and is currently the youngest celestial master. His 99% metal attribute talent makes it very likely that he will become the next supreme powerhouse. As for Senior Brother Song, he is known as the successor of Ji Chongxin's Heavenly Dipper Highness. After not seeing him for 5 years, his demonic power is estimated to be extremely close to 9 crowns. Senior Brother Song should be in his 70s this year. Although he is not a member of the Central Empire's royal family, his status in the Central Empire is comparable to that of a king. Not only has he been conferred the title of Grand Duke, he is also the Grand Marshal of the Central Empire's armies. The Central Empire's army stationed here also listens to his orders. He is an extremely powerful figure. If I had not broken through to 7 crowns, it would really be an exaggeration to call me the same as these 5 senior brothers. These 5 senior brothers were once the chief disciples of the Yin-Yang school. Su Yonglong, Jin Gulong and Du Quanglong, these 3 senior brothers of similar age, have challenged each other countless times for the position of the Yin-Yang school's chief disciple. With the support of these 5 senior brothers, the Academy would not dare to stop us from entering the holy evil battlefield. Hearing Fury deliberately changing the topic, Ji Dong did not say anything more and only listened quietly. He would be surprised if there were not a few powerhouses guarding this place. The 5 radiant dragons were undoubtedly the mainstay. "Fury, are you there?" At this moment, a gentle voice rang out from outside the tent. Hearing this voice, Fury, who was explaining to Ji Dong about the 5 radiant dragons, suddenly stiffened. He sat up on the bed and said in a deep voice, "What are you doing here?